We are Baltimore. We are Wisconsin.
Welcome from Miami, Florida. They've got the roof closed up on a sultry Tuesday night here in South Florida. It's the Brew Crew and the Miami Marlins. We're ready for Game 2 of this 3-game series. The Brewers with a big win yesterday. Ton of offense. Now they give the ball to Taylor Youngman, who's putting together a most impressive rookie season, coming off a win his last time out against the Pirates. And hi, everybody. We welcome you from Marlins Park. Great to have you with us. I'm Brian Anderson, along with Bill Schroeder. Telly Hughes is our reporter tonight. Well, Taylor Youngman has been quite the story. It certainly gives the Brewers a lot of hope when you start thinking about 2016. What Youngman is doing has been historically good for the Brewers, Rock.
Yeah, no Brewer rookie pitcher has ever gotten off to this kind of a start. Matter of fact, not too many pitchers in baseball history have gotten off to this kind of start. You know, he had a hiccup 3 starts ago against the Washington Nationals. Only went 4 innings, gave up 5 runs. One of his worst starts of the year. And every time he has one of those, he's only had 2, he's been able to bounce back. His last 2 starts, outstanding, able to eat up innings and pick up wins. He's 2-0 in his last 2 starts, just continues to get better, and not just on the mound. He's swinging the bat pretty well, too. So everything he's been asked to do, he's been able to do very well. He's got 3 months in the big leagues. He was called up in early June, and he has been a mainstay in that starting lineup. A couple of September call-ups, including a man making his major league debut. Telly will have more right after this from Miami.
You. Test drive one at your Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places. And by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers, it's Miller time. The Brewers got the bats cracking in South FLA to open the series with a 9-1 win over the Marlins on 15 hits as the crew look to continue to swing the hot sticks. Good evening from Miami, everyone. I'm Telly Hughes. The Brew Crew's travel list grew by 2 today, and it will remain that way throughout this road trip and the remainder of the season, as the September call-ups are Luis Sardinas and Nevin Ashley. Sardinas was recalled from Colorado Springs after appearing in 20 games for the Brewers earlier this season. Ashley will ultimately make his major league debut after spending 10 seasons in the minor leagues, which makes this a true feel-good story for all parties involved.
Anytime somebody puts in that much time, and obviously he's put in a lot of work over those last 10 years, and to get the opportunity, it means he's earned it, and it's it's great to reward people like that have earned it, for sure.
Can the crew keep the momentum rolling in Miami and make it back-to-back wins over the Marlins? BA and Rock are back after the break with the first pitch and call next from Miami.
South Florida, they've got the roof closed up, and it is climate controlled inside Marlins Park on a Tuesday night. Great to have you with us tonight. Craig Counsell and the Brewers trying to stay hot. Milwaukee has won 7 of their last 8 games going back to August 30th, and they've hit .335 as a team during this stretch. And the lineup looks very similar for Craig Counsell. It's brought to you by Potawatomi. He's got Segura, Lucroy, and Braun at the top. Davis, Rogers, Santana in the middle. Rogers, the change there, in there for Adam Lind. Hernan Perez, Elian Herrera, and Taylor Youngman will round out the starting 9 for Milwaukee. And that is the batting order that will face left-hander Adam Conley. Back-to-back lefties the Brewers will see in this series.
Yeah, the Brewers saw him at Miller Park. He got a no decision on August 18, 3 2/3. Brewers hit him, but only were able to muster 4 runs in that span, 9 hits, and a Marlins 9-6 victory. He's 6'3", 25 years old, and he was a second-round draft choice of the Marlins back in 2011.
He was in that same draft as Taylor Youngman in 2011, and those two made their major league debuts within a day of each other back in early June. And Conley out of Washington State, and makes his home in Olympia, Washington. Back on the mound to face the Brewers for a second time. And Rock, how about the Menards Marlins defense?
Yeah, it's always good to have Ichiro in the starting lineup. The 10-time Gold Glove winner. He's less than 100 hits away from 3,000 in his big league career. Now, Marlins have been pretty good defensively, up in the top third in the National League in defense. And not too many changes from yesterday. You got Rojas at short, Ichiro in right, and everybody else the same.
Home plate umpire tonight is David Rackley. And the three on the bases, Bob Davidson, the crew chief, Hunter Wendelstedt, and Marvin Hudson. And all the pieces in place. We're ready for baseball tonight. Great to have you with us on a Tuesday. Hope you had a great Labor Day weekend and a great Labor Day yesterday. Hope you got a chance to spend it with family and friends. And we're back into the wheel of the big league season now. All night games across the major leagues tonight. All 30 teams in play tonight. We'll be keeping track of some of those key pennant race matchups, especially one in the National League East, the Washington Nationals and the New York Mets. Here in Miami, we're ready to go. Conley's first pitch at 93 miles an hour. He misses down and in, and off we go at Marlins Park. Segura leading off for the Brew Crew. Well, he's really been swinging the bat well as he pops this one up. And D. Gordon will make the call and the catch, and that's how the night begins for the left-hander Adam Conley.
And Brewers went to slugging in yesterday's ball game, a 9-1 victory. Another double-digit hit total for the Crew. They've been swinging the bats well for over a week now, putting up big run totals. And let's continue that the rest of the way here in September.
9 runs on 15 hits yesterday, and the top of the order was impressive. Segura with 2 hits. He scored twice. Jonathan Lucroy had 3 hits. Was 3 out of 4. He drove in a run, scored 2 runs. I saw Lucroy before the game today during batting practice. I said, Luke, you got a couple of more hits in you today. He goes, only 2? He's feeling good at the plate right now. He's got his batting average up to 263.
Making up for not getting many hits early in the season. You got to get greedy this time of year to get that batting average up to where he would like it to be. Look at the September he's been able to put in. First week pretty good.
That's taken him just a little over 2 weeks on the calendar to raise his batting average from 235 to 263. That's how hot he has been.
Swinging the bat like he did a year ago. I mean, going line to line, left, center, and right. Staying on the baseball, a lot of 2-strike hits.
Lucroy 3 for 4 yesterday. 4 for 13 on the road trip now, which began in Cincinnati. And his 3 hits yesterday were gap to gap. He went right center for a double, left center for a double, and then had a base hit and an RBI with a single back up the middle. Right to the center fielder. Lucroy's hit safely in 13 of his last 14 games and a .411 batting average over that stretch.
Sad, so it's not just a bunch of 1-fers. He's doubling up in hits. 3 yesterday, drawing his walks.
This will be the second matchup with Conley. Brewers saw him on August 18th at Miller Park. He went 3 2/3 innings in that game. He did have 7 strikeouts, but it was an early exit for him as Lucroy pops this one up. And this will be the second out to D. Gordon. 2 up and 2 down for the left-hander.
Yeah, kindly, get it in the low 90s. 94 he'll top out at. He's got a very good changeup, but he hasn't thrown one yet. He'll cut the fastball and a very inconsistent curveball. And that's the pitch that he needs to be able to master a little bit better to be a successful starter. Earned run average over 5 for Conley. But he's got a 3-1 record.
Put up great numbers in AAA this year in the Pacific Coast League. Marlins AAA is in New Orleans. As Ryan Braun jumps on that first pitch, fouls it away. Now Ryan with 2 hits yesterday. His last 2 at-bats, he ended up leaving the game, the Brewers had such a lead that Lucroy and Braun and even Segura were able to take a few innings off at the end. Braun's batting average up to 285. That's been on a serious march toward 300 as well. Ryan has 6 hits on this road trip. The 3 games in Cincinnati and then his 2 hits last night. Hit his 25th home run of the year in Cincinnati.
And again, doing most of his damage into center field and to right. Right, looking for a nice strong finish. Has had great success this year and in his career against lefties.
Yeah, you wonder, the Marlins have Nicolino and Conley back-to-back in their starting rotation. So as Conley strikes out Ryan Braun to end the inning. 1-2-3 frame to get us started tonight. Now the Marlins are coming up against Taylor Youngman. A couple of members of the road crew are out here following the Brewers on the road as they match up against Dan Jennings and the Miami Marlins. Jennings was ejected from last night's game, arguing balls and strikes. He hopes to stay around for all 9 innings tonight. His batting order looks like this. It's brought to you by Potawatomi. D. Gordon making a run at the batting title. He leads off. Then Christian Yelich and Martin Prado. Middle of the order is Justin Bour, Marcelo Zuna, and JT Realmuto. Ichiro hits 7th. Miguel Rojas will be the shortstop tonight, and Adam Conley, the pitcher, rounds it out. That's the starting 9 that will face Taylor Youngman, who is hoping to keep the ball rolling in his rookie campaign. His 17th start as a big leaguer this year.
It's been amazing watching him. Every time it seems like he has a bad outing, he bounces right back, looking for his 3rd consecutive victory. And Taylor Youngman able to beat the Reds and the Pittsburgh Pirates back on the last homestand. He's 4-3 on the road this year with a .333 earned run average.
First pitch to Gordon is away for a ball. D. Gordon, he's had another terrific year. He made an all-star team last year as a member of the Dodgers. Comes in batting .329. That's good enough for 3rd in the league, behind Posey, who's hitting .330, and Bryce Harper, who checks in at .336 today. Gordon is the National League hits leader. As a matter of fact, he's the Major League hits leader with 170 hits.
Well, he's dropped to 3rd in the National League batting race. Buster Posey passed him up.
Now you got Harper, Posey, Gordon, Goldschmidt's on the list. DJ LeMahieu, who's a terrific second baseman and might rival Gordon for a Gold Glove this year. Marlins are without the other member of the Keystone combo, Adeiny Echeverria. He's out with a hamstring injury, but those two make quite a combo.
Quite athletic, huh? Move around pretty well, both with pretty good throwing arms. Oh, there's a pitch that Taylor Youngman needs to get. Right at the knees.
Pitcher-friendly ballpark here at Marlins Park. There's Echeverria. He's hopeful to be back soon, out with a hamstring injury. 2-2 pitch on the way. Gordon fouls it away.
We've seen Gordon, you know, in 2 series now. He loves the ball down. Matter of fact, he got a hit off of Davies yesterday that was almost in the dirt, able to dump it into center field to lead off the game for the Marlins. Good hitter, having a nice season.
Youngman deals the 2-2 up and in, and Gordon turns it around. A base hit into right center. A leadoff single for D. Gordon.
It's one of those years it seems to be coming easy for D. Gordon. And the only thing that's hurting him in the batting race, he doesn't walk much. He's not a guy that's going to take too many base on balls. And normally, if you're going to win a batting title, you got to walk, get that on base percentage up. But the hits keep coming for him.
And he is a base stealer as well. He is second in the league to Billy Hamilton. Gordon with 48 stolen bases. Youngman has a very good move to first, as you see there. He's quick, but he takes a little while to unload it to the plate. And the Brewers giving up a lot of stolen bases this year, and a lot of those bags are coming against Youngman and Jimmy Nelson.
Yeah, and Lucroy really not much of a chance on most of them.
And you figure Gordon is going to be on the move. There's a close play at first again. He's got just enough of a lead. That's about as far as he can go right there. He was just able to get back.
Yeah, but he could just barely get back. That's a good lead. You get caught leaning, though, you might get picked off.
Christian Yelich batting second for the Marlins. The Gold Glove Award winner last year. Yelich has spent some time on the disabled list as well, and he's bothered by a knee injury. Did have to go to the disabled list because of that knee injury, and he's not running very well. He's normally extremely fast, but we've seen it a couple of times already in the matchups we've had with the Marlins. Yesterday was unable to track a few down. There's another close play at first. Long pause, and Yelich takes a ball.
Looks like Youngman's trying a little bit of a slide step, not as slow to home plate as he has been. There's always a fine line that you walk, and with a young pitcher, trying to get him a little bit quicker to the plate with men on base. Sometimes you lose your command. You might not be able to find the strike zone like you would ordinarily, but.
Runner goes. Lucroy's throw to second is high, and the tag not there. Segura kept the tag on him just in case. But safe is the call, and Gordon steals number 49.
Youngman much better getting rid of the baseball. You got rid of it quicker, a little bit of a slide step, giving Lucroy a chance. And if that throws down on the bag, I think it gets him out a little bit high. Throw beat him. If we get to throw down a little bit, he's going to be out at second base.
So a runner in scoring position right out of the gates. Yelich in a 1-2 count. And that one's down and in. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
He's not afraid to steal third base either, so keep an eye on him, even at second.
Well, a good base stealer can wreak so much havoc for a starting pitcher. You start the wheels in motion. Youngman working from the stretch right away, and an inside move. It's the only base you can fake to any longer, second base. And Yelich takes ball 3. He's a good player. Yelich is a big part of their future here in Miami. Marlins are without Giancarlo Stanton, who is out with a broken hand. And there's talk that he might not return this season. Got Echeverria on the disabled list. Feels like a team that should be better.
Yeah.
On the record, they've got a lot of talent. They've got some players that certainly you have to think about, game plan around. They're 57 and 81 coming into play. Pitching has been their problem. Jose Fernandez is supposed to be coming back Saturday through a simulated game yesterday, but one of the great young pitchers in the game. Tommy John surgery. He's on the comeback trail.
Just like the Brewers, a lot of young starters. Takes time to get these guys feeling comfortable in the big leagues.
Youngman with a walk. What a shaky start to this one for Taylor Youngman.
He just can't find the strike zone with the curveball. He's thrown a few of them. Not even close. Check out the Menards Brewers defense tonight. You got Davis, Santana, and Braun in the outfield. Perez, Segura, Ilian Herrera at second base, and Jason Rogers with his 18th start at first base, and Jonathan Lucroy behind home plate.
Now Rogers enjoying the playing time, working in a bit of a platoon with Adam Lind, although Lind was in there yesterday against a left-handed starter. There's a strike to Martin Prado. Hitting third in this Marlins lineup right now. Such a good player, Prado. I was talking to Jerry Naron, the Brewers bench coach, about Prado today. He said he's just a pro. He does everything the way you're supposed to. Shows up every day. Got a bit of that briefcase mentality. He's not a flashy guy, but he makes plays. He hits. He hits in the clutch.
And not a guy you would think that was a number 3 hitter. You know, more of a maybe 2 or maybe down in 5 and 6, but that's where the Marlins are at this point. There's a good curveball for Youngman. First one he's been able to throw for a strike.
He needed to see that one go across the plate. Youngman with that crossfire action. He's tough to pick up.
Especially for guys that have never seen him before. This is his first start against the Miami Marlins.
And Prado is late. No balls, 2 strikes on Prado, who had a couple of walk-offs for the Marlins over the weekend against the Mets. Marlins won 2 out of 3 from the Mets, tightening up that race in the National League East, down to 4 games after the weekend. And then the Mets beat the Nationals yesterday, a comeback win, and they're back up 5 games. Back up the middle, hits the leg of Youngman and into center field, and Gordon's going to score. And the Marlins are on the board quickly here tonight. That's a 2-strike RBI single by Martin Prado. 1-0 Miami.
Another breaking pitch that was up in the strike zone. This time Prado, he saw it one time, took it for a strike, and this time waiting for it, able to stay back long enough and hit it hard into center field. And with D. Gordon at second, that's an easy run. Just got a piece of the leg of Taylor Youngman. Shouldn't be an issue for him.
3 batters faced, 2 hits and a walk, and a run is in. First and third, nobody out for the big power hitting first baseman of the Marlins, Justin Bour. He's hit 16 home runs for the Marlins this year. That curveball misses again. This guy's got some serious pop. He looks like a home run hitter, and he is a home run hitter.
Another guy that stands on top of home plate. He's pretty close, just daring you to come inside. Hit a monster home run over the weekend.
Yeah, that was a game-tying home run in the 8th inning on Sunday against the Mets' Tyler Clippard. Youngman could use a ground ball here.
I'm not sure where that pitch is missing. David Racklett, home plate umpire. It's the second time that Youngman's thrown that pitch down around the knees, and both times called a ball.
Yeah, you got to have that pitch.
Yeah,
pitch number 3.
That's where you have to pitch. You have to pitch down. You have to be rewarded for throwing pitches down there.
Well, Dan Jennings, the Marlins manager, was ejected yesterday. And he was arguing a liberal strike zone. Maybe it has paid off for him here tonight. 3 balls and a strike on Bohr.
Strike zone has a tendency to be a little bit more liberal when it's 9-1.
I agree. Which was the score when Jennings was thrown out.
In other words, swing the bat.
Brewers are going to take a chance at a double play here. They'll concede a second run if they could turn 2. Try to avoid a big inning. A run is in. Bohr fouls one away. He's late again. Count remains at 3-2.
And a lot of pitches up in the strike zone, and you not too difficult to figure out why he's not getting the low strike. You get the low strike, he's going to continue to pound the pitch down there. You get the pitch down in the zone, you get the ground balls, you get called strikes. Up in the zone, you get the foul balls.
And he got him a strikeout. Bohr does chase one. And the first out for Taylor Youngman is a strikeout. And the runners will have to stay put.
I'm not sure he wanted it up there, but it worked out on the 3-2 pitch. And now you get your double play, get out of this mess. There's a 4-seam fastball from Youngman. And gets Bohr on the fastball right about the letters.
So the first out. Still runners at the corners. And here is Marcell Ozuna. Ozuna was a bit of a breakout star for the Marlins last year. He's playing center field. But the season did not start well for him. He was sent back to the minor leagues. He went down to New Orleans, and he hit well down there. That's what earned him a call back up to the big leagues. He hit over 300 in 33 games at AAA. And called back up in mid-August.
And when he's right, he's a difference maker in that lineup. I mean, not just at the plate, he can run. And we saw him make a throw in yesterday's ball game that was pretty impressive. From deep right field all the way to third base, almost got Adam Lind on a tag up. Tremendous throwing arm in right field.
2 balls and a strike. And Ozuna, a hot one right to second. Herrera to Segura, throw to first in time, and Youngman able to get out of it with a double play ball. 4-6-3 double play, well turned. Youngman gives up 1. Could have been a whole lot more. Prado in the first inning. Had a run in and 2 on and nobody out, but Youngman comes back with a strikeout and a double play. Chris Davis ready to lead the way in his Powerball home run count win up yesterday with number 18. And it was a rocket out of here, over 400 feet to the opposite field in this pitcher-friendly ballpark. We're buzzing about that home run at batting practice today. Davis ready to lead off, to be followed by Rogers and then Santana.
Yeah, it was on a changeup too. That shows you how much power that Chris Davis has in that bat. Brewers could have had 4 home runs yesterday. They had not. They hit him into center field. Braun, Lynn, Santana hit deep fly balls into center field here in this ballpark. A lot of home runs go to die in this ballpark in center.
1-1 the count on Davis. And a big swing. 1-2 it goes. Chris has had a nice flurry here in the stretch run of the season. Had a great August. Was the Brewers player of the month in August. He had 10 homers in the month of August. And yesterday was his first home run in September. And there's a base hit. And a good way to start the inning for the Crew. A single to center field for Davis.
Speed pitch, able to wait back long enough and beat the shift. And D. Gordon shaded up the middle, not able to get there. Lead off single.
That'll bring up Jason Rogers now. Brewers don't have many questions about Rogers' bat. He's shown enough here in the big leagues that he's big league ready to hit. As he swings at the first pitch, a foul pop. There's not a whole lot of territory over there. They'll end up in the seats. Big question for Rogers moving forward. Where does he play? Or does he start to trend as a bat off the bench? That can play a little third, some first base, maybe some outfield. He's not going to play any of those positions above average. But he can really swing the bat.
Good patience at the plate for a guy that doesn't play much. You don't see him swinging too many bad pitches. But as long as Adam Lynn's with the Brewers, he's not going to get a lot of playing time. And first base probably is his spot.
Lynn getting the day off from the starting lineup with another left-hander on the mound. 1 ball, 1 strike. And Rogers takes a ball low. That is a closed door down there tonight.
And that was a changeup that time from Conley. One of the few that he's thrown. Remember throwing a lot of them. He threw a lot of them in Miller Park. The Brewers able to get on him pretty quickly. 9 hits in 3 2/3 innings. Stick him over the fastball in this start.
And a ground ball to short. Bounces off of and then right to Gordon. Rojas had it ricochet right to the second baseman. Fortunate for the Marlins, they get an out.
Just like they drew it up. No panic for D. Gordon. Ball just rolled right over to him as he has his foot on the bag. And he beats Chris Davis.
Put out goes 6-4. Not the most conventional 6-4 put out, but Rojas happy to get an out there. Should have been a double play ball. Runner at first with 1 away. Here is Santana down and in on the shoot tops. Now Domingo's starting to get some company among the late season call-ups. Santana, the first of the 4 Astros prospects to make it to the big leagues. Today the Brewers brought up Luis Sardinas, shortstop they acquired from the Texas Rangers. Guy can also play second and third. We saw a little bit of him earlier this season. So Sardinas is back after the AAA season ended yesterday. And Nevin Ashley is back as well. That ball's in the air, right field, going back. Ichiro looking up, and Domingo Santana has done it again. Another opposite field home run for Santana. Just showing tremendous power, and just like that, the Brewers take the lead.
And just continues to get more comfortable up there at the plate. Being more patient, not swinging out of the strike zone as much. And when they come in on him, well, he gets a hold of it. It's going to go, and that's what he did here. Got under a little bit, but he's so strong, so tall. He got that leverage and drives it on out of here. Impressive power for Domingo Santana.
Of his 5 home runs, 4 of them have been from right center field down to the line. As Hernan Perez on the first pitch, a high fly ball out to Ichiro in fair territory for out number 2.
And when you're this strong, you don't have to pull the baseball. Fastball actually middle in, right? A little bit late on it. Didn't even get all of it, and still able to drive it out of here. Yep, right into that Marlins bullpen.
And the reaction by the Brewers dugout. It's something special when a right-hander has that kind of pop. And when you see him swing, it always gives you a sense that he's a little late, or he's getting jammed a little bit. But boy, he rips those hands through the zone, and such quick bat to be able to drive the ball that far. And of course, he's got the leverage at 6'5".
When you're that strong, you don't have to put him on a sweet spot, even in a ballpark like this. Just raw ability for Domingo Santana. You can wonder what he's going to be able to do when he starts to harness it. And he's starting to do that right now.
Been up here less than a month, already has 5 home runs.
The more home runs he hits, he draws some walks. He's just going to get more comfortable at the plate and wait for his pitch.
He's hitting over 400 in September, and he is seeing more pitches per plate appearance than any other Brewer during this stretch of games since his call-up. Matter of fact, he's seeing over 4 pitches per plate appearance, which is something he said he wanted to do as the calendar changed over into September. Be more selective. There's a called strike 3 on Herrera, and that will end the inning. So the second strikeout for Adam Conley, but not before. Domingo Santana with that buggy whip uppercut swing launches one. 2-run home run. Brewers have the lead. Is brought to you by Marshfield Clinic. Don't just live, shine. By Piggly Wiggly, the official supermarket of Fox Sports Wisconsin. And by Hupy and Abraham. 800-800-5678. Hupy and Abraham. Tell them you mean business. Domingo Santana has given the Brewers the lead after Youngman got the double play to get out of the first. A 2-run home run has him on top. First ball swinging, deep drive left field, and that one is gone. JT Realmuto wasting no time to even this one up. And that ball was launched.
Yeah, that ball was hammered out there in the left field. You don't see that very often with Youngman out on the mound. It's only the 4th home run he's allowed in now 16 plus starts. Fastball up and in, and he was waiting for it and launched it out of here. Catcher with big power. Ties it up.
Home run number 8 for Real Muto. Here's Ichiro now. First pitch to him is away for ball 1.
Yeah, this is where you have to hit him. I mean, normally you hit him down the lines here, although that would have been out in any ballpark in left field, but you can hit him out down the lines. You better hit him pretty good if you're going to hit him into the gaps.
Ichiro hits a shot to Herrera, first out of the inning for Youngman. And the Marlins making good contact early tonight. Even that double play ball that Herrera started was a sharply hit ball by Ozuna.
Almost knocked him over.
1 out, a run is in, and here is Miguel Rojas. He's getting the start at shortstop here tonight. It's been a lot of talk about innings limits for rookie pitchers, especially Matt Harvey, the most notable. Harvey's on the mound tonight against the Washington Nationals. Taylor Youngman began the year at AAA, and he was in the rotation every 5th day there. And he's been in the rotation every 5th day here. As Rojas pops this one up, Perez makes a catch for out number 2, and Rojas walking back to the dugout. That was a fair ball.
And didn't even run to first. Well, that doesn't look good. Hey, join the crew for Fan Appreciation Weekend in Miller Park, Friday, September 18th through Sunday the 20th. The Brewers host the Reds, and all fans will enjoy various prizes and giveaways all throughout the weekend. For details, go to brewers.com/fan appreciation.
So 2-men are out. Here is Adam Conley now. And there's strike 1. The Brewers are confident with Taylor Youngman that he'll be able to finish the season in the rotation. They're not concerned about his innings this year. He's right where they want him to be. That ball is hit very well, deep left field, but Davis is right there to end the inning. So after the home run, the Marlins go quickly, but the home run by Real Muto ties it at 2.
One to right field. Well, 2 home runs the Brewers have in this series. Chris Davis hit one yesterday, pretty much to the same spot. Check it out. Look at the point of contact. Almost identical. No wobble in that bat whatsoever because he got it right on the sweet spot. Look at the extension for Chris Davis. Now, you take a look at Santana. He's not going to get that kind of extension. He's going to get it back in the hitting zone just a little bit, down on the handle. You can see the bat wobble just a little bit. It doesn't do that if you get it right on the sweet spot, but he's still strong enough to knock it out of here into right field. An opposite field home run in this ballpark. When you don't get all of it, that's impressive.
That is something. What a great image, too. Great cameras down there that capture the speed of that swing. And you can see the swing path for each. You know, Davis is a much shorter person than Santana. And that arc of that swing, Santana's just got one of these classic uppercut home run swings. The Brewers feel like if he plays a full season in the big leagues, he's got a chance to hit 25 to 30 home runs a season.
Yeah. You know what? He's played pretty well in center field, too. I mean, he doesn't really trend out as a center fielder, but he's done a pretty good job out there. I mean, he plays deep. There's been some balls that have been hit in front of him that if you have a regular center fielder out there, they're going to make that catch, but that's a trade-off, right?
He knows his playing time is going to be in center field. Boy, think about the home run production the Brewers could put together with Braun, Davis, and Santana playing every day. Got a chance to have 3 guys hit 90 homers. The pitcher Youngman leading off for the Brew Crew here in the 3rd inning. That 2nd inning for him was just a 7-pitch inning. Started with a home run by Real Muto. But then worked quickly through the rest of the batting order. Excuse me.
You got 2 300 hitters in the game tonight. You got D. Gordon and you got Youngman.
That's true. Taylor Youngman hitting .321.
Of course, Conley was right at 300. You know, before his at bat. Almost hit one out last time against Francisco Liriano. Right at the base of the wall and left, a double.
Youngman said that's all he's got right there. Hook 'em horns. Former star at the University of Texas. And his Longhorns lost to Notre Dame over the weekend in football. And he and his bullpen mate, who he was teammates with at the University of Texas, had to wear a Notre Dame onesie on the plane due to a lost bet with the manager, Craig Counsell, a Notre Dame alumnus. It's never good to wear a onesie on a big league airplane. Don't forget, we got action coming up Saturday. Doubleheader of baseball. Big Fox has the Blue Jays and the Yankees. That is going to be a great series. Those two are battling it out for the American League East. And then on FS1, Tigers Indians at 6 p.m. You can catch them all on Fox Sports Go as well. Coverage starting at 11:30 a.m. Central on Fox and then 6 p.m. Central on FS1.
You know the scary part about those big onesies? Number one, that they have something like that in that size, and people actually buy them to wear them willingly.
True.
That's what concerns me.
It kind of reminds me of an image that I saw recently in Cleveland of a onesie, a pink onesie with bunny ears on top.
Really? You're going there, right?
Segura rolls one, got a race to the bag and safe at first. Segura, that's the only time it's necessary to slide. And Segura able to beat the tag, and boy, he went crashing in to the bag. That was a hard landing for him.
Yeah, he was lucky too. Watch him put the hand in there right as Conley puts the foot on the bag. I mean, that could have been a cleat job right in the top of the hand, but look. But Segura with yet another infield hit. He has a ton of those this year.
He's a little shaken up.
Maybe knocked the wind out of himself. And not much you can do about that. I mean, Board did what he had to do, and Conley just a little bit late.
Terrific play. Yeah, that was heads up by Segura. I tell you, that dive. You know, a lot of guys start their dive before the base, and you slide into contact with the bag, but that's only when you're trying to stay on the base. Segura knew he could go past it, and he literally dove to the top of the bag with his hand, and that was the first contact. That was the only reason he was safe.
Well, the reason that he dove and he didn't stand up straight, because if he stayed upright and ran through the bag, he would have hit the pitcher and probably would have had to slow down before doing so. It might have been out.
That belly flop rattled him a little bit, though.
It's just a natural instinct. When you're going to run into somebody, you're going to slow down just a tick. And that might have been all it took to get him out at first if he did that.
See if he takes off here. He's got Lucroy at the plate. Sometimes those base runners will play a little possum on a play like that, especially base stealers like Segura. They'll limp around and act as if they're hurt and that they might not be able to stay into the game, and then on the first pitch they'll try to steal second base.
Kindly a tough guy to run on. The Brewers weren't able to get any stolen bases against him at Miller Park. Left-hander's a little bit more difficult. Sometimes you go in the first move and just take off.
Lucroy takes a ball down and in.
Does take him a while to get rid of it once he does go to home plate.
Well, the Brewers are swinging the bats. They now have 18 hits in this series, and 8 of those 18 are for extra bases. 5 doubles in the series. Lucroy has 2 of those. There's been a triple. That was Segura. And then 2 home runs, Santana and Davis. As Segura takes off, Segura's got a retreat. Foul ball, and Bohr's got it for the out. Second out of the inning.
Connolly really doing a good job, getting in on the hands of these Brewers right-handers. A lot of jam shots and pop-ups to some pretty good fastball hitters.
So Ryan Braun will bat with Segura at first base. Yeah, they still love him here in Miami. What a great career he had at the University of Miami. College World Series team. He said he loved playing college baseball here, and Ryan is quick to remind us that he came to Miami on an academic scholarship, not an athletic scholarship. Extremely intelligent and had high marks, almost a straight A student, and performing at an All-America level as a collegiate player. He was a shortstop originally and then a third baseman at Miami. Matter of fact, the Brewers drafted him as a third baseman. Came to the big leagues as a third baseman in 07. Was moved to left field prior to the 08 season.
He made the adjustment very quickly. As Kindly dropped a changeup on him.
Braun now in his 9th season as a big leaguer.
9 seasons in 3 different positions.
And the all-time home run leader in Brewers franchise history. Set that this year. On the ground, shortstop Rojas dives, flips, and safe. Segura with his speed able to beat it to the bag, and that'll be an infield hit for Braun. Good hustle by Segura. He's one of the few that could make it on a play like that. That'll keep the inning alive for Chris Davis.
Yeah, Brian Braun saying thank you very much for the good jump and able to hustle down to second base to beat it. That was the only play that the Marlins had. Just not able to get enough on the backhand flip. And Segura able to just beat it at second base. So credit Brian Braun with the base hit, number 4 for the Brewers. Good effort though out there at short.
So 2 outs, 2 on. The Brewers a chance to take the lead. Great speed on the bags as Segura forces Connolly to step off.
He had a monster lead out at second.
Davis has 4 hits on the road trip now. They'll make it 5 hits after his single his last time up. 5 for 15. Seeing the ball well. Hitting for average in the month of September. He's got his job back in left field, and he's making the most of it. Had a hard time finding the field as a starter after he came back from the disabled list, as Gerardo Parra was playing so well, and you knew the Brewers were in a position to trade him, and he was hot, and Parra was able to be flipped for a starting pitcher that we saw last night, Zach Davies, who got his first major league win. Two on, two out. Davis with a swing and a foul right into the mid of the catcher. 2-1. Gerardo Parra, by the way, he's gone to the American League and he's done a good job for the Orioles. He's hit nearly 300 for them. But the Orioles have really been in a tailspin. At one point, they had lost 12 out of 13. Had 2 6-game losing streaks around a victory.
Yeah, pretty much out of it.
Long gone in that division.
Yep. That's a good deal for the Brewers, right? You know, Parra going to be a free agent at the end of the season. They get Zach Davies. Got his first big league win yesterday. The Brewers have had 3 pitchers get their first major league wins this year. You have Pena, Youngman, and now Davies.
And there's ball 4. So Davis will draw the walk. And with 2 outs, the Brewers are making a little noise here in the 3rd inning. An infield hit and a walk. Now the bases are loaded. That'll bring up Jason Rogers. What a great story Rogers is. We talked about Nevin Ashley, and he's made it to the big leagues. Hoping to get some playing time tonight, maybe tomorrow. Might see him as a pinch hitter at some point. After 10 seasons in the minor leagues. Well, Jason Rogers has played his minor league career with the Wolf at the door himself. He's out of Columbus State. He was a 32nd round draft pick. He was the 969th player taken in the 2010 draft. I mean, you're not counting on a guy like that to surface in the big leagues as quickly as Rogers has, but he's done it. He's hit at every level. Was the Brewers minor league player of the year a few seasons ago.
They don't even have that many rounds anymore in the big leagues, right?
32nd round.
Well, you never know. And if you can hit, they're going to give you a shot. And that's what's going on with Jason Rogers. They'll find a place for you.
Well, the Brewers sent him back down to the minor leagues earlier this year. And he needed to get some playing time. They brought him up in April, the 3rd week of April. Sent him back in early July. He was down in AAA Colorado Springs for a little over a month, and he hit well down there. And he's been with the Brewers since August 7th. There's a swing and a miss. With the bases loaded, Rogers strikes out. That's a big out for Conley and the Marlins. Still tied.
take a look at Zach Davies, who picked up his first major league win in his second major league start, and is worth taking a look back. And Columbia St. Mary's worth another look. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. He did not walk a single batter, as he had 5 1-2-3 innings out of his 7, and Zach Davies picks up his first major league win and his second major league start, guys.
That was quite an effort yesterday. I talked to Zach before the game. He said his phone didn't blow up quite as much as it did after his major league debut last week, but he did make his first call back to his girlfriend and his family, his mom and dad and his brother, all back in the Phoenix area. Youngman able to run that one down, and that will get him an out on D. Gordon.
I'd love to get him out to lead off an inning. You know, Davies really working quickly, and last night, Craig Counsell was quick to point out how good a job Jonathan Lucroy did behind home plate, calling the game for him. It seemed like he was throwing more fastballs in his start yesterday than he did in his major league debut. Good job by Lucroy, throwing down the signs, working quickly. Only had the 1 inning where he gave up 3 hits, gave up a run, and that was it.
He is a real positive guy. You can just tell. You talk to him a little bit, you understand what kind of career he's had and some of the obstacles he's overcome. He's always been told he's too small. You just don't see right-handed pitchers drafted and up to the big leagues as fast as Davies has been able to get here. He's only 22. Most scouts are looking for guys like Taylor Youngman, those big, tall right-handers. Durable.
Guys throwing in the mid-90s. Davies barely hit 90 yesterday.
Youngman at 6'6". But both are very athletic on the mound. That's something you like. Yelich turns it around. A base hit back up the middle. Youngman still looking for his first clean inning of the night. Well, it's now time for you to tweet us your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag WisDataStrongFan, and you just might see yourself in an upcoming broadcast. It's all brought to you by T-Mobile. Christian Yelich on base twice, a walk and a single. And that'll set it up for Martin Prado now. Prado drove in the first run in the first inning, had a 2-strike single back up the middle.
I mentioned that the Major League Baseball doesn't have 36 rounds anymore. They do. It's 40.
40 rounds.
Just want to make sure that we get that right, or I get it right. 40 rounds, so ease up on the Twitter.
On the Twitter.
The Twitter account.
And you can be found, if you'd like to directly insult Rock, at Brewers Fan Camp. However, that's also a great place to go if you want to find out about Brewers Fantasy Camp.
Right. We're filling up. If you're interested, you better get going. Robin Yount's coming for a couple of days.
No way.
We had a bunch of sign-ups when that was announced.
He's going to play?
No, he's not going to play. He's going to coach.
Oh, he's going to coach?
No, he's not paying to come.
What do you charge Robin Yount?
That's going to be fun again.
The Hall of Famer. I hear Bob Uecker's going to stop by.
Stop by for lunch.
All right.
Sign some autographs.
Well, that'll be cool. Brewers Fantasy Camp. Check it out at brewers.com/fantasy camp. It's a great time, I promise you. We got the 2016 Brewers schedule today, and it always reminds me that fantasy camp kind of kicks off
it does.
the winter into spring as we move forward to spring training and then on into the 2016 season. There it is, Brewers Fantasy Camp, January 31st through February 7th. We'll get you home before the Super Bowl, we promise.
Get home about 3 o'clock. Super Bowl's usually in the evening. 414-321-8605. January 31st, February 7th. Looking forward to it already.
I feel like we should highlight athletic trainers when we do that promotion.
Most important guys.
It is. Yelich takes off, got a walking lead, and Prado fouls it away.
Man. Pitch over his head.
How about that? Yelich could have walked into second base. Youngman completely lost track of him.
And he had a walking lead, and Youngman never stopped him. Check it out. He just takes off and had that one stolen. Very fortunate that Prado felt like he needed to swing at that. It was over his head.
Yelich does not look as spry as he normally does.
That's what you call a good jump.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Prado takes a ball down and in.
Those are the kind of jumps Greg Brock used to get back in the old days.
A Greg Brock reference. Speaking of fantasy camp.
No, he used to do that a lot, really.
Now, what's the trick in that? You just get a pitcher not paying attention?
Right, not a guy that steals bases, forgets about him. And that normally happens. Taylor's having a difficult time. I mean, he's had men on base. He's had a difficult time with his command, and those are normally the times where you're not going to really pay attention to a base runner a whole lot. You're more focused on making good pitches, and that's when Brocker would do it.
Prado fouls it off his back foot. Well, that one had to sting a little bit. He's hurting.
You have the shin guard on the front because that's normally where most of the foul balls will hit. Very rarely do you get hit on the back foot.
Just clipped his shin, it looked like. Last time up, Prado got a curveball. He waited for it and then slapped it up the middle for an RBI single. Youngman checks on the runner at first again. He's got his attention now.
Yelich has got about a 3-foot lead, not even.
Yelich is very fast, but he's just not running well right now.
That's no lead at all over there.
2-2 the count. Prado, a ground ball. Herrera's got a long way to go. He gloves it. He throws it in time. Heck of a play by Herrera. Boy, he's been sharp defensively tonight.
Going up the middle and now into the hole between first and second. Able to make both plays. One a double play, and this one a nice play to get Prado. You can see the lead of Yelich. Something going on with him still. And Herrera with a nice play to get him at first base. 2 outs with a man at second now.
Well, it's not that he makes the catch on the ground ball, but the way he positions his body to be able to spring right up and in a position to throw with something on it. Takes a lot of athleticism to do that. A shortstop by trade, showing those skills at second base. I always thought Roberto Alomar was the greatest at that I'd ever seen. Body control and the slide to a throwing stance, and yet his knees and his feet never got in the way of the ground ball. He's always in a perfect position, it seemed like.
Body control and good balance, as you talk about. You'll be able to get up quickly. Of course, these guys are young. Herrera, young kid. You can bounce off the ground a lot easier when you're young than you can when you're in your 30s.
Justin Bour, that's up the middle and a base hit, and this is going to get a run home. So Youngman giving up a 2-out RBI single to Bour, and the Marlins have regained the lead.
Didn't hit it all that well. Sounded like he got down on the handle a little bit. Able to fight it off. They had Herrera shaded him to pull and able to get it up into center field. Down on the hand just a little bit, but he's strong and able to muscle. You can see where Herrera is. He's playing to pull, not able to get there.
So Youngman giving up runs in each of the first 3 innings. The Brewers' 2 runs came on a 2-run home run by Santana. And with 2 outs, Bour at first base. Here is Ozuna. Ozuna's got some serious power. 8 home runs in the big leagues this year. He spent some time in the minor leagues. They feel like he's a guy that's going to hit 20 home runs a year if he plays every day.
tough to put up the big home run totals when you play in this ballpark. You got to pull them unless you're Stanton. It doesn't matter where he plays. This ballpark will rob a lot of home runs. We saw it yesterday.
Last year, Ozuna hit 23 homers, 85 driven in. He also had 26 doubles. That was his first full season in the big leagues. But he came to the Marlins this year, and things didn't work out well to begin the season. He got sent down to AAA. It's one thing to get here, it's another thing to succeed here, and yet it is so tough to stay here.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't ever think that you have it all figured out and kind of coast. Not to say that he did that, but wouldn't be the first guy to, have some problems as his career got off to a start. And they get down to the minor leagues, a little bit of a gut check for you, and now he's back and swinging the bat pretty well.
And he goes. That'll be a strikeout for Youngman. Lucroy will secure it. Good block back there by Lucroy, and the inning is over. But the Marlins score again. They've scored single runs in the first 3 innings, and the Fish lead it 3-2.
When the brothers on second in Platteville, if they call the Brewers in the next 24 hours, they get 40 Miller Lite beer pen tickets to an April and May 2016 Brewers home game. It's offered courtesy of the Tavern League of Wisconsin and Miller Lite.
Down there in Bo Ryan territory, right?
Yeah, southwest part of the state. That guy looks like Mike Matheny, doesn't he?
He does. He does. He's pretty well yoked up, ready to go in case we need some backup. Domingo Santana will lead off for the Brew Crew as we head to the 4th inning. 3-2 Marlins. Santana responsible for the 2 runs on the board. He had a 2-run homer to right field his first time up. Marlins have made a defensive change at short. Donovan Solano, who started there yesterday, will take over for Rojas. Don't know if that's an injury situation or not. Might be. Rojas had that diving play last inning. And Santana draws the walk. Walked a couple of times last night. On base percentage is on the rise for Santana.
Yeah, neither pitcher very sharp in the early going today.
So Hernan Perez will bat with a runner at first. 3 hits last night for Perez, giving the Brewers a lot of production down at the bottom of the order last night and shows bunt this time. Bunts right through it. Looks like they got the picture taken care of. This was the image that they had for Hernan Perez yesterday. That would be Chris Perez.
They got the right one up today.
Yeah, I think they made the adjustment.
Somebody said something.
Chris Perez actually retired from baseball just a couple of weeks ago, as a matter of fact. He was with the Brewers in spring training. It's an honest mistake. But Perez, as he likes to be called, does not look like the pitcher.
Yeah. Well, the adjustment's been made from the beginning of the game until right now.
That's all we ask. Well, you get 3 hits, you know, you get a little respect sometimes. It's got a chance to be a real sleeper move for the Brewers. Acquiring Perez off the Tigers Major League roster. They took him off the big league roster. They were trying to sneak him through. They liked him, but there's no playing time with the Tigers for Perez. So the Brewers, who had the first claim, the first pick, because they had at the time the worst record in baseball, and they were able to snatch him up. They like him a lot. Now Perez has hit a lot in AAA, so he's proven he's a good hitter. We've seen his defense, and even though he had a few troubles earlier in the season coming in specifically for defense, he is an excellent defensive player and a shortstop by trade, as he strikes out for the first out of the inning.
Good changeup that time. You know, the irony of the whole thing is Perez came to the Brewers. They needed a roster spot. They took Herrera off the roster, and now Herrera's back and he's playing second base. So they're both in the lineup at the same time.
And they've been in the lineup a lot against left-handed starting pitching. Herrera slides over to second base. Elian's essentially in a platoon with Jeanette against left-handed starters, and he's in a platoon with Perez against right-handed starters. And that one through the hole, a base hit for Herrera. 2 on with 1 away. Jumping on the first pitch, Elian Herrera with a single.
He's starting to get better at bats as a right-handed hitter as well. It's always been better from the left side. A base hit tonight as a right-handed batter.
That's his 6th hit on the road trip. He's 6 for 21 now. Had a couple of home runs in Cincinnati in the doubleheader.
Got the sliding glove on to protect that thumb.
Santana at second, Herrera at first. Taylor Youngman up there to try to drive in a run with Segura on deck. You like the bunt here, partner?
You don't want to ground into a double play. You want to have at least an opportunity for Segura to come up and drive in a run. I mean, he's hitting .310, but you don't expect much out of your pitcher. You think he should be swinging away?
I'm thinking pitcher's rake. Give him a chance to drive in a run. Shows bunt again, pulls the bat back and fouls that one right off the catcher, Real Muto. That was a direct hit. Ouch. Stunned him. You could just immediately see him go to a knee.
Let's see where it gets him. Yep. Knee shot right on the inside of the knee. Those hurt.
And you'll notice no visit by the manager or the athletic trainer.
Nobody says a word.
Anybody on the medical team.
You'll be all right. Just shake it off.
If anybody else on the field gets hit like that, there's an army of medical personnel tending to him. Such is life for a catcher. 1 ball, 1 strike on Youngman. Shows bunt again and bunts it foul.
You don't need all the attention, do you? I mean, you're catching, you get hit. I mean, how many times does Luke Corey get hit in the course of a game? Goes down. I mean, timeout. The only person that really cares is the umpire. Gives him time to shake it off.
And that's why it's the greatest position on the field.
It is.
Why wouldn't you want to catch? Youngman again with the old butcher boy, and he strikes out.
They'd be better off just trying to drop down a bunt to put another man in scoring position. But you're tempted with that 300 batting average up there on the scoreboard.
Fifth strikeout for Adam Conley. Top of the order now. Here is Segura playing the role of run producer here with 2 on and 2 out. The Brewers down a run. First ball swinging. Got a changeup from Conley. Those who have seen him most in the Marlins organization say that Conley is a sharp breaking ball away from becoming a very good major league starter. Right now he's in a little bit of a tweener phase. Marlins are confident he could be an excellent relief pitcher, late inning relief pitcher, because he has the fastball and the changeup. But they want to find out if he can be a starting pitcher in the big leagues.
Needs that third pitch. Chuck Hernandez keeping an eye on him.
Segura down in the count. No balls, 2 strikes. Brewers left him loaded last inning when Conley struck out Jason Rogers with the bases full. Fourth inning from Miami, 3-2 Marlins. And Segura, slow roller, third base, coming in. Prado, he can't handle it. Unlikely he makes a play anyway as Segura legs out another infield hit. And again, the Brewers have the bases loaded with 2 outs, back-to-back innings.
Yeah, because of his speed, Prado knew if he caught it with the glove and transferred it into the bare hand, he wouldn't have had time. Only chance for him was a bare hand pickup. Not able to keep the baseball in the hand, and another base hit for Segura. Now an infield hit to first, now an infield hit to third base. And that brings up Lucroy with the bases loaded.
Well, big spot here for Lucroy. Tying run at third base. Go ahead run at second. Been a ton of base runners in this game for both teams. Segura with his second infield hit of the game. And a hot hitter at the plate. And Lucroy, center field, going back. And Ozuna will make the play for the out. He hit it a ton, but not in this ballpark. That's where fly balls go to die. Brewers strand the bases loaded for the second consecutive inning. Here the last 2 innings, and they have come up empty after 2 out rallies. So Youngman back to work, down a run as we go to the bottom of the 4th. Our Carsoup.com trivia question: Who was the last Brewers rookie pitcher to win at least 10 games in a season? Youngman coming in at 9-5 and the best ERA among rookie starters in the big leagues, a 2.42 earned run average. But he's given up 3 earnings tonight in his first 3 innings of work. JT Realmuto will lead off. Homered on the first pitch he saw in the second inning. The second run for the Marlins as that one skips in for a ball. A no-doubter in the second, up and in, and Realmuto is waiting for it. Bangs it off the facing, and the home run sculpture, the artwork out in left center field. Not sure exactly what to call that yet. I'm still waiting on a name. But it's very colorful.
Yes, it is.
And it's massive. You don't really appreciate it until you stand up there by it. Think about how high that is.
Have you been out there?
I have. Yeah, when the ballpark first opened in 2012, went out there and stood on those steps there by the flags. And that thing is 3 stories high. High fly ball slicing into the seats down the right field line. Hey, good play over there with his hat. Good job. And he's acting like he's been there before.
Yeah.
See there, honey? That's what you get.
I told you I used to play.
She's just, can I see that? No. Let me admire it first. I wonder if he's going to let her look at that baseball. That one's deep. Out towards that sculpture. And Santana running out of room, and he bangs off the top of the wall. And this has a chance to be an inside the Parker. Realmuto is all the way around, and he will score standing up. He slides anyway, but could have stood up. Inside the park home run for Realmuto.
Wow.
And it is 4-2 Marlins, his second homer of the game.
Yeah, not much that Santana could have done about that one. I guess in hindsight, you don't get so close to the wall, but he thought for a second he might be able to make the catch out there in center field. Man, once that ball caromed off the wall, you knew that Realmuto was going to be able to circle the bases. See how close Santana came to it. He just ran out of room, and by the time they get it in, it's an inside the park.
It's a second inside the park home run this year by the Marlins. The other was D. Gordon. And his first career multi-homer game. He's got one over the fence and an inside the Parker.
How many catchers do you know have inside the park home runs?
Ichiro takes a curveball strike. Realmuto can really run.
He can run. He got around there quickly.
He has 6 triples this season. That's the most triples by a catcher in a single season in franchise history.
This is about as good a triples ballpark as there is in all of baseball. Big, deep alleys. You see that the way it's shaped out there in center field. A lot of caroms off of the padding out there. And when you're not used to playing here, those things can happen. That area out in center field that very rarely, if ever, do you see that in the big leagues. But the artwork was moving.
Yes, it was.
The Marlins were happy, swimming around. Those Marlins, not the players.
Full count to Ichiro. And it's ball 4. Youngman struggles continue. And a man on with nobody out after the inside the park home run from Realmuto. And boy, he launched that ball into deep left center. That is a home run over the wall in every ballpark in the big leagues.
And he wasn't even running until he got to second base. I mean, that's how easy that inside the park home run was. And just decided to slide just to slow himself down, and easy. That's about as easy an inside the park that you'll ever see.
Still huffing and puffing in there. Marlins are going to be bringing those walls in from center field. As a matter of fact, they're going to, right where the scoreboard ends, the tentative plans right now, where the scoreboard ends right under the sculpture out there, they're going to draw that line, and it's going to go directly across.
Yeah, makes sense.
To the Marlins bullpen down the right field line, or in right center. So it's going to cut off about 15, 18 feet there. They're saying it's going to be about 400 feet to straightaway. So you draw from that line out to the bullpen there in right center at the 392 mark.
Eliminate that angle that Santana had to deal with.
Not sure what they're going to put in there in that area, but
another statue or a sculpture.
They might. It's a good idea.
Maybe a fish tank. Most unique park in the big leagues. There's the fish tank behind home plate.
And by the way, that is bulletproof glass. So those fishies are in no danger of spilling out onto the playing surface. What a seat he's got.
Fishies?
Little fishies. Donovan Solano batting for the first time. He came in last inning for Rojas.
He's got a lather going out there. See, he sweat through his jersey. Had to put the glove down and pat down the rosin bag on the arms to dry things off.
It's been a struggle for him. The Marlins have 4 runs on 6 hits. And they've scored in every inning. He has not had a clean inning yet. One thing Youngman has done this year, which has been impressive, he's really only had 2 bad starts. And on each occasion, he's come back and pitched well after his poor start. I think that's what Rick Kranitz, the pitching coach, and Craig Counsell wanted to see out of him. See how he'd bounce back, how he'd deal with adversity. Ichiro takes off, and there's a swing and a foul into the seats.
Shown that resiliency that a bad start doesn't really get into his head too much. Took him a while to get that bad start. It was about as good as it gets. One of the best starts for a rookie pitcher in Brewers franchise history.
Two balls, 2 strikes. Ichiro at first, and he stays put, and a swing and a miss. Youngman strikes him out.
And got in on his hands with the 2-seam fastball. Hey, it's not too late to plan a group outing at Miller Park this year with custom tailgate spaces, all-inclusive areas, party suites, and more. Miller Park is ideal for groups of all sizes and budgets. To learn how you can save big on tickets by bringing your group to Miller Park, visit brewers.com/groups.
Long pause, and that is a strike on the pitcher Conley. Conley hit the ball sharply his last time up. He sent Davis back into deep left field. It was the final out of the second inning. Conley takes a ball. 1-1. And Conley moves up in the box, shows bunt, bunts it foul. It's always a good idea. Conley, who stands deep in the box, once he squared the bunt, took a couple of crow hops up to the front. Why do you do that, Rob?
More room to bunt in fair territory. The angles are better.
See if he does it again. He's bunting. He will. There he goes.
That's actually in fair territory already, as opposed to in the back of the batter's box.
And he bunts that one right in front of the plate. Lucroy will go to first. Good throw there. Sacrifice bunt for Conley. It's the second out. But the Marlins put a runner at second base with the Major League hits leader coming up in D. Gordon.
All the base runners that Youngman has had to deal with, he's only down by 2 runs, so we still have a ball game here. This is a big out. And be careful here. You got Yelich coming up. He's been swinging the bat well since he's come back from the disabled list.
D. Gordon, runner at second, 2 gone. Another run is in for the Marlins to make it 4-2 on an inside the park home run from Real Muto. Gordon had a single, a stolen base, and a run scored in the first. Grounded back to the mound his next time up. Little slow roller that Youngman made a nice play on. Ichiro's been over there through the last 2 hitters. Walked after the home run.
A lot of pitches for Youngman today. 4th inning. 78 pitches. Far cry from his complete game in Los Angeles.
Now the only complete game of the year for the Brewers. In that game, Youngman threw exactly 100 pitches in his 9 innings, and Brewers really haven't been close to a complete game outside of that effort. Runner at second, and the 1-2 pitch. Gordon pulls it foul. What amazing he can get good contact on that pitch, down and in like that. That was right on his shoe tops.
He likes the ball down, but you know he's got so many hits. He's up there amongst leaders in batting average. He's hitting everything these days. Almost picking the ball right off the ground.
And the 1-2. Gordon in the air, left center, base hit. That'll shoot the gap. In to score is Ichiro. D. Gordon does it again. This time it's an RBI double.
Yep, on a 0-2 pitch. Can't make mistakes to these guys. You can't make mistakes to guys like Gordon. He had a couple of pitches to play with. He had first base open. And he comes through once again, his second hit. There's a reason why he's hitting well over 300, hitting pitches like that and making it look easy. Just serves it out there in the left center, and he is in there with a double and an RBI.
Greg Counsell's on his way out. That'll be the end of the line for Taylor Youngman. So Taylor cannot get through the 4th. Youngman will exit, and the Brewers go to the bullpen early tonight. 5-2 Marlins.
Brought to you by Miller Lite, the original light Pilsner. Cheers, it's Miller time. And by the Wisconsin Lottery, reminding you to please play responsibly.
Well, the Brewers got an uphill climb tonight. Taylor Youngman is out. 3 2/3 innings here tonight. He's given up 5 runs. Still has a runner at second, his responsibility. As the Marlins have delivered with 2 strikes and with 2 outs on a couple of occasions. 5-2. The new pitcher is Cesar Jimenez, the lefty out of the Brewers bullpen, trying to get Christian Yelich to end this inning.
And he's been perfect since joining the Brewers. He pitched in both ends of the doubleheader on Saturday at Cincinnati.
Brewers got him from the Phillies. Able to claim him after the Phillies were trying to take him off the roster, and another one of the acquisitions the Brewers have made. The Brewers scouting department has been on high alert all season, knowing this is the year to try to reboot and restock.
They brought him in when Neil Kotz was traded to Baltimore. He's done well. He doesn't throw hard. I mean, barely reaches 90, but he sinks it. He's got a good slider. Been pretty good against both left-handers and right-handers.
2 balls, no strikes. Runner at second is Gordon. He can really run. And Yelich now 3-0. He's been on twice. He walked in the first. He singled and scored in the third. And he lost him on 4 pitches. Inning continues. 7th batter of the inning is coming up. And Martin Prado. Got some scores to pass along. They're in the 6th inning in Washington. Nationals lead the Mets 3-1. That's Jordan Zimmerman, the Wisconsin native, against Matt Harvey in that game. Key game in the National League East. Mets lead the Nationals by 5 games in the NL East. Gordon takes off. Lucroy can't find the handle. That's a strike on Prado, but a double steal for the Marlins. Gordon with his 50th stolen base of the season. Give Yelich credit for a stolen base as well.
And just couldn't get the handle on it. Lucroy trying to be quick, making up for a good jump. I think if Lucroy gets it right away, he might have a shot, but he couldn't hold on to it.
They picked the right pitch to run on, a breaking ball.
Yeah, takes a little longer to get there.
This is a spot when Prado becomes such a tough hitter to put away. Good contact hitter, shortens up his swing.
Just got to keep the baseball down. He's been pretty good on pitches up, mid-thigh and above. Most right-handed hitters like the ball up. Left-handers like it down.
1 ball, 1 strike. 2-1. Jimenez in for Youngman. Gave up a walk. Now a double steal. The Marlins have 2 runs in, threatening for more. 5-2. Brewers cannot afford to go down anymore as that one skips in. Lucroy, nice job to keep it in front. 3-1 now on Prado.
And fastball, you just get lucky. Try to throw the glove up there when a ball in the dirt. Well, now this is where Prado becomes really tough. Any hitter is tough in these spots, but these veterans like Prado got to make a good pitch. Base hit will probably mean 2 runs.
And he lost him. Back-to-back walks. Bases loaded for the Marlins. And the big boys coming up. Justin Bour hitting cleanup for a reason.
The Brewers need someone to get the pace of this game going a little bit. It has been a grind for the pitchers. Youngman and now Jimenez has come on, and 2 deep counts and both plate appearances resulting in walks. Sure, Jimenez had a game plan to be careful with Prado with a left-hander coming up, but now he's really got to make a pitch.
Nowhere to put him, and he's down in the count.
Bohr had an RBI single his last time up, and that's in the dirt. 2-0 the count.
A lot of these pitches not even close. It's just a stark contrast today's game as to what was going on yesterday with Zach Davies out on the mound. Just pouring into strikes. Rick Kranitz wants to have a chat with his left-hander. This is a Jimenez we have not seen yet. He's been so good in his first 9 appearances and just can't find the strike zone.
Well, he's up against it here with a power hitter at the plate. See the splits on Bohr. 227 against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, but that just went up considerably. Now he's got a 2-0 count.
Two balls, no strikes. That one's in there. Dan Jennings made it a point the rest of the season to give Bohr and Derek Dietrich at bats against left-handed pitching in evaluation mode as well. Ball 3. And that missed. A bases loaded walk. 3 consecutive walks for Cesar Jimenez. And another run is in. And this one's getting uglier by the second. 6 runs in for the Marlins. 3 in this inning.
Before this appearance, Jimenez had not walked a batter as a member of the Brewers. Making up for that in this inning.
And it'll be Marcell Ozuna now. 9th batter of the inning for the Marlins. First pitch swinging. Bounces it foul. Got some lopsided games going on elsewhere in the Central Division. The Cubs are out in front of the Cardinals 6-0. Game's in the 2nd inning. Chicago Cubs getting home runs from Rizzo, who hit his 29th and his 100th career homer. Starlin Castro also a homer. Roughing up Michael Wacha, the Chicago Cubs.
Castro wasn't out of that starting lineup very long, was he?
And they brought up Baez to play second base as well. Castro's back in there tonight, responding with a homer. Pirates lead the Reds 5-0 behind Liriano. That game's in the 5th inning. Washington's now added to their lead. They're up 7-1 over the Mets. Matt Harvey giving up 7 earned runs in 5 1/3. All of that talk about innings limits had to be a distraction. Had to.
I'm not sure how you even consider doing that given where the Mets are right now. You would have thought baseball would learn their lesson with the Strasburg situation a few years ago. Well,
now they're saying that Harvey's going to pitch in the postseason. They're going to monitor his innings and his starts, he might just get 2 more starts the rest of the regular season.
You got to get there first.
Yeah, you got to get there. A loss tonight by the Mets, it'd be 4 up
Right.
on the Nationals.
That's not a short thing.
Matt Harvey coming back from Tommy John surgery. And they do not want to push him from 0 innings to 200 innings the first year back. And he's never pitched that much in his career. 3-2 pitch. Ozuna fouls it away with the runners on the move. Marlins can deal the Brewers a knockout punch right here. 6 runs is tough enough, but Ozuna can put the crew away. Jimenez has walked 3 consecutive batters. And he's got a 3-2 count here to Ozuna. Just walked in a run. Runners go. 3-2 pitch is pop foul. The 2 Brewers pitchers, Youngman and Jimenez, have thrown 47 pitches with this offering. And Ozuna to right field. Braun on the run, and he will make the catch in fair territory to end the inning. A rough one, though. Marlins score 3. They lead 6-2 now.
Community. Beyond the Diamond is a series of community outreach events that will take place each month during the season, all of which involve partnering with Brewers Community Foundation, players, coaches, Brewer wives, alumni, and team personnel working in the community. The community events will be funded in part by Brewers Community Foundation and focused on the areas of health, education, recreation, and basic needs. Yay?
All right, Telly, thanks. Here we go to the 5th inning already, and it is 6-2 Marlins. As Ryan Braun takes a strike. A couple of firsts for Taylor Youngman. Not the kind of first he was looking for, but giving up the most runs. First time he's given up 6 runs in a game. That is a season high. And a multi-home run game against Taylor Youngman by the same guy, JT Realmuto. A home run that cleared the wall and an inside the park home run for the Marlins catcher. First time Youngman had given up a multi-homer game this season. As Braun lines one foul into the seats. Youngman goes 3 2/3 innings with 7 hits, 6 runs. ERA jumps to 2.87. Hopefully he'll bounce back his next time around. That'll be against the Pirates on Sunday. He's beaten the Pirates 3 times this season. 3 of his 9 wins coming against Pittsburgh. 2-2 pitch. Brewers twice had the bases loaded, could not score. There's been some offense against left-hander Adam Conley. Brewers have stranded 6, all coming in the last 2 innings. Got a 2-run home run from Santana in the 2nd inning. So it's not out of question the Brewers could come back tonight. This is not a pitcher that has had a whole lot of success in his brief career in the big leagues. He's had his moments.
He's made the most of that 5 earned run average, hasn't he? 3-1 record. Most of his starts lately have come on the road. It's got to be one of the best places to pitch in the big leagues.
Yeah, no doubt. You would think.
You can make some big mistakes. You keep hitters in the middle of the field, you're going to do all right.
Second rounder out of Washington State, and he's from Olympia, Washington, Pacific Northwest. Conley down in AAA this year was 9-3 with a 2.52 ERA. When he left the Pacific Coast League, he had the lowest earned run average in the league. That was in 19 games. Marlins are in search of starting pitching, but they have the one bullet that everybody wants, an ace, and Jose Fernandez, who will be 100% next year. He threw a simulated game here yesterday. He's supposed to start Saturday. They'll get him back. There's been some talk about shutting down Fernandez for the rest of the year, but he wants to pitch. He says he's healthy. Maybe psychologically he needs to get on the mound.
Yeah, it'd be a much easier offseason for him and the Marlins, for that matter, to know that he's healthy. He was popping that glove yesterday.
Yeah, that was fun to watch.
Yeah.
You know, one thing about him, he knows his role here, his position with this organization. He spent about 30 minutes after batting practice today signing autographs, walking back behind the home plate area, and had fans on the field. There's a base hit by Braun. Wow, what an at-bat that was.
12 pitches.
Foul ball after foul ball. Braun turns it into a single, and he's 2 out of 3 today.
Conley's been giving the Brewers some pitches to hit. I think the Brewers have been surprised at the number of fastballs that he's thrown. Much different approach for Conley tonight than he had at Miller Park.
At the plate, presented by Wendy's. You see the night for Chris Davis. Singled his first time up. That was on a 2-strike pitch, and then he walked in the 3rd. Boy, he took a hack at that one. Big, violent swing by Davis.
Hard to believe that both teams have 7 hits, but the Marlins have 6 runs. They've taken advantage of their opportunities. Brewers have not. Brewers have left the bases loaded in each of the last 2 innings.
Davis trying to give him a quick strike. And another big swing. He fouls it back.
The Brewers able to bounce back off the mat, down by 4 runs early in the game against Cincinnati in game 1 of that doubleheader. Ended up winning that game. Offense that has been very good over the last week plus.
Hitting at a .335 clip as a team.
6 runs, nothing.
1-2 pitch on the way, and a swing and a miss. Down goes Davis. A strikeout for Conley. That is number 6 for Conley. Struck out 7 Brewers in his first matchup.
Good slider, going down and in off the inside corner, and Davis out over the top of it.
That's really been the difference for Conley tonight. He's had a good breaking ball. Not thought to be his best pitch, his best out pitch, but he's gotten a few with that slider. Here's Rogers with Braun at first. Seven strikeouts ties a career high. I believe that's at 6 games, 7 punch outs. And that number came against the Brewers his first time out. That was back on August 18th. Two 2-0 on Rogers. That's in there for a strike. In the air, center field. Coming in on it is Ozuna. That's going to fall. A base hit. Ozuna started back and could not run it down.
Yeah, just bad jump. I mean, a bad read by Ozuna. That ball's got to be caught. That was up in the air a long time. And watch him if you can see him. He's going to take a couple of steps back for some reason, right off the end of the bat. And that's a bad play by Ozuna in center field to allow Rogers to get the base hit.
Well, that opens the door a little bit.
Well, that's got to be caught.
That'll be a single to center for Rogers, but certainly a misplay by the Marlins center fielder. He'll take it. Domingo Santana has been on twice. 2-run homer in the second. He walked his last time up. This is the guy you want at the plate. He could tighten this game up quickly. Tremendous opposite field power. A flick of the wrist. And he shot one over the wall in deep right center in his first at bat. Our Marshfield Clinic shining moment of the game.
Incredible leverage to knock that one out of the ballpark to right field. Patient at the plate as well.
Yeah, he's walked 3 times in this series.
Well, the more he plays, the more at bats he gets, the more patient he becomes up there at the plate. Now he's in the driver's seat, 2-0.
Big hack by Santana. That home run was his 5th as a Brewer. He hit 2 with the Astros earlier this season. So his overall totals in the big leagues in just 87 at bats, 7 homers, 19 runs batted in, and an on base percentage of .363. He's got an OPS over 900 in his brief stay in the big leagues this year. And that's why the Brewers are so excited to see what he's going to be able to do across a full season. Santana in the minor leagues, splitting time between the Astros and the Brewers AAA stops. Had 18 home runs.
Nothing left to prove in minor leagues.
Dominated AAA.
Even at that young age.
2 on, 1 away. 3-2 is inside, ball 4, and Santana reaches again, and the bases are loaded again. It's the 3rd straight inning the Brewers have loaded him up.
And you wonder if Jennings is going to, stick with his starter. He hasn't been able to get through 5. He's got a 4-run lead. Got the tying run to the plate. Kyle Bearclaw getting loose.
A most enjoyable name to say.
I like it. I was hoping he'd get in today. Get him in nice and early. That means the starter's not doing a good job, right?
And you get to say Bear Claw.
Right.
As promised earlier in the game, Rock, we have now selected the Data Strong fan photo of the game. You can tweet us your strongest fan photo. Use the hashtag #WishDataStrongFan like Dina did. And Dina made the broadcast. It's all brought to you by T-Mobile. I'm thinking Dina's on the right. Taking a selfie.
Is that a pink flamingo with a helmet on?
I believe that was. Well done, Dina. That's going to be it for Conley. Starting pitchers struggling tonight. Conley's out, bases loaded. We'll have a new pitcher with 1 out after this. (6-2). This one has been a battle, an endurance challenge. Top of the 5th inning, and the Brewers have him loaded again. Kyle Bearclaw is in the game. The Brewers are going to counter with Adam Lind, and so we've got a Bearclaw Lind matchup with the bases loaded and 1 out.
Yeah, 15th appearance for Bearclaw. Look at that strikeout, 19 strikeouts in a little over 14 innings of work. Has pitched on the 6th against the Mets. He walked a batter, struck out a batter in the 3rd of an inning. Been pretty good so far. A .63 earned run average, and he's got to get himself out of a mess.
All right, Adam Lind. One swing of the bat, he could tie this thing up.
One of the better fastball hitters on the roster, Adam Lind. Brewers have had the bases loaded in each of the last 3 innings.
Got to come up with something here.
Right.
Down 6-2. A lot of baseball to be played. Conley cannot get through 5 innings. With a 4-run lead.
Right, I know.
Had a chance to win this one, but will not factor in the decision. Neither starter able to give any length tonight. Youngman goes 3 2/3. 4 1/3 for Conley. That's a strike in there. 2-1 to count. And slashes one foul. Now Lind does have 3 salamis in his career, and he looks like a guy that would really enjoy a bear claw. I mean, who wouldn't enjoy a bear claw?
You think?
The pastry, not the real claw of a bear, but the pastry, the bear claw. 2-2 pitch. And Lind popped it up. Shallow center field. Ichiro is going to call this one. And no chance for Braun to score the run. That's a big out for Bearclaw. 2 outs in the inning now. Lind is retired. And that'll bring up Elian Herrera. Normally a Bearclaw would look pretty good right now, but after the Cuban crush we put on him today at lunch.
That was good, wasn't it?
Might not be eating for a few days.
Down in Little Havana. Good
That
time.
was outstanding food. This ballpark's situated right in the middle of Little Havana, back on the old Orange Bowl site. The 0-1 pitch, and Herrera fouls it away. No balls, 2 strikes.
All the years we've been coming to Miami, it's the first time I checked out Little Havana. Calle Ocho, 8th Street, main drag through Little Havana.
Calle Ocho was packed today.
Yeah.
On a Tuesday afternoon. Go figure. They must have heard you were coming. 2-strike pitch, and Herrera fouls it back.
Sat and watched the guy roll cigars.
Yeah.
That was fun.
How long does it take to completely roll a cigar?
I left before he got done.
Oh, okay. You didn't have the staying power.
No. Had to get to the ballpark.
Yeah, you did. You didn't want to be late today. Here's the 0-2 again, and Herrera takes one in the dirt.
But he had a big stack of them in front of him. I bought about 4 of them.
I mean, that's quite the art. Rolling cigars, passed down generation to generation. And the great Cuban community here in Miami.
Yeah.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Bases loaded. Herrera strikes out. And for the 3rd straight inning, the Brewers strand the bases loaded. Bearclaw comes in, does the job. Innings. Not good. Well, we got our Carsoup.com trivia question. Who was the last Brewers rookie pitcher to win at least 10 games in a season? You know the answer to that, Rock?
I got to think about it.
There's really no time to think about it, because the answer is Willie Peralta. He won 11 games in 2013, backed it up with a 17-win season last season. And he'll get the ball tomorrow, or rather on Thursday, against the Pirates. It might be tomorrow when we get to the end of this game. Thursday, I mean. We're operating at a funereal pace right now. Two starting pitchers struggled in this one, as Real Muto, who has 2 homers, grounds out on the first pitch. Shattered that bat. Good thing that's a hot bat, so get rid of it.
Yeah. Good two-seam fastball. You know, I had a tough time thinking about that trivia question. I was thinking about that Ropa Viejo I had for lunch.
Oh yeah, you had a lot of things for lunch.
It was a,
you didn't just have one thing.
Right,
it
was a Cuban sampler plate.
You had the whole, like the right side of the menu.
I couldn't decide, so I got the sampler.
And some tostones, and as you see, Sardinius in the game to play second base. Just up from AAA, back in the big leagues with the Brew Crew. Herrera goes to third. Ichiro takes a ball. One and two on Ichiro. I was watching Ichiro take batting practice today. Just one of those moments, you're on the field, you see a great hitter like Ichiro at the end of his career. But it's just a thrill to watch him work. As he pops this one up in foul territory, and that will be the second out of the inning.
And hands have slowed down considerably, which is to be expected. All the at-bats he's had between the Japanese leagues and major leagues.
You know what's impressive about him, though? He's so flexible. Watching him stretch, his routine to get ready to hit. He's constantly in motion, constantly stretching, and he is very elastic, which is one of the main reasons he's been able to play so long.
He's got a very strict regimen before the game. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to show up at 1 o'clock. I mean, he'll get there at about 3:30. But he's all business when he gets to the clubhouse. He's got a stretching regimen that he goes through, an exercise routine, and a pre-game, pre-batting practice, routine that he goes through with the hitting tee and the soft toss. He's been doing that for years.
Takes incredible discipline. Solano grounds to third. Herrera is there, and he makes the play in a 1-2-3 inning. Boy, the Brewers needed that. A clean inning for Jimenez. We go to the 6th. The Brewers are down 4.
Park, there's one. Brewers down by 4, and as part of Fan Appreciation Weekend, all fans at Miller Park for the Brewers showdown with the Reds. On Friday, September 18th, we'll receive a scratch-off card containing prizes such as 2016 tickets, game-used jerseys, a team store shopping spree, and more. For details, go to brewers.com/fan appreciation.
Shane Peterson will pinch hit for the Brewers to start the 6th inning. He'll hit for Jimenez, who goes an inning and a third tonight, coming off a 3-up 3-down inning. Bear Claw continues for the Marlins. Peterson's done a good job off the bench this season, but has not been able to find his way in the starting lineup here recently. And down he goes on strikes. Bear Claw with a couple of big Ks. He's gotten 3 big outs for the Marlins. Came in with the bases loaded and 1 out last inning, and he got Lind and Herrera. And now he strikes out Peterson to start the inning.
They get him on sliders. That's a good slider with 2 strikes. Got Herrera on it, and now Peterson.
Here is Segura. I see the Mets are making a comeback on the Nationals. That game was 7-1. It is now 7-6. Mets are still batting in the 7th inning. They've scored 5 runs. David Wright has homered in that game. Well, if the Nationals let that one get away,
boy,
that might be it. Mets are already up 5 games in the division. 7-1 with Jordan Zimmerman on the mound. You figure that is a W. A curly W in Washington's case. As their radio man, Charlie Slows, calls it. Speaking of radio, got a Hall of Fame broadcaster next to us. Always a thrill to come to Miami and spend time with Dave Van Horn.
Yeah, good man.
What a great baseball man he is. Legendary broadcaster here. There he is, inducted into the Hall of Fame a few years ago.
He was with the Expos.
He is a perfectionist, always pouring through the roster with you, wanting to get the perfect pronunciations and ask you who's hot, who's not, who's been pitching well.
And a gentleman.
Yeah, he is. He's great. Speaking of radio, by the way, there's another award-winning podcast coming tomorrow from Jeff Levering.
You're on it.
Levering we went into filibuster mode to fill up that podcast today. As Segura strikes out, slams his bat, and there is out number 2, and Bear Claw has 3 consecutive Ks. 4 up and 4 down for him.
How many minutes do you have to fill to fill up a podcast?
I don't really think there's an ending to a podcast. You can go as long as you want. Levering looks very much lost in thought right now.
He's thinking about maybe shortening up the podcast that he did with you. Having second thoughts about some of those stories.
He and Joe Block on the Brewers radio network tonight. Bob Uecker not on this trip.
Sure he's watching.
Well, he's watching and listening, I'm sure. Joe Block just had a funny tweet. A rare funny tweet from Joe Block.
Yeah.
Actually tweeted a picture of a Bear Claw, the pastry. I don't know where he finds this stuff while he's doing play-by-play, but he's amazing. There's Joe.
And all it said was what? Now pitching?
That's it. Now pitching. He's a funny guy. Now, if Joe's not talking and Jeff's not talking, then who's talking?
And somebody's got to talk because it's radio, right?
Somebody's got to say something. Oh, there he is. Now he's ready. Maybe it's Kent Sommerfeld back in the back.
Up in the back, all twisted up in those wires. He's not talking.
He's got a very intense look on his face as Lucroy takes a called strike 3, and Bear Claw strikes out the side in the 6th inning. Brewers radio, everybody. There they are. Three amigos. And moving awful fast tonight. 6-2 Marlins. That is the exact opposite of the pace of this game right there. Don't forget, Fox Sports Live coming your way tonight. And all the coverage of Major League Baseball. All night games tonight in Major League Baseball. You've got NFL beginning their season Thursday. We'll have it all covered for you tonight on Fox Sports Live. New pitcher is Kyle Loesch out of the Milwaukee bullpen.
Man, see Kyle's numbers: 8th appearance out of the bullpen, 22 starts. Rough season for Loesch. Last pitch in a doubleheader against the Reds. Man, his numbers: 138 innings. You see that opponent batting average at near 300.
A half swing by Casey McGee. 0-2 the count.
Most pitched in game 2 of the doubleheader in Cincinnati. Scoreless inning in the 3rd.
Casey getting a pinch hit appearance. I saw Little Mac today.
Yep, I was talking to him.
He had 2 lines shaved into his head.
Yeah.
Stylish. Casey's son, who became a star in Milwaukee. Casey always raves about Milwaukee. He loved his time there. Had a great year there. His best year as a big leaguer was in Milwaukee. 2010, drove in over 100 runs. And Little Mac, who has cerebral palsy. McGee's very active. Cerebral Palsy Foundation they've established, and they do great work. And Mac is an inspiration. He's a great kid.
He was over by the Brewers side of the field with Dad while the Brewers were stretching before batting practice, and the guys were high-fiving him. Those that remember Mac that were here when McGee was on the ball club, in particular Ryan Braun. He was playing catch with Dad earlier today.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Little Mac, when he used to come to the ballpark, and what was he, probably 4 or 5 years old back then?
Yeah.
He could name every person on the Brewers traveling party as they would get on the bus. As they would walk on, he would say their names. As McGee strikes out to start the inning.
Yeah, good changeup. Yeah, Mac's 8 now.
Mac came up and asked me, he goes, how's Bobby? I said, Bobby? He goes, yeah, Bobby. Bobby Euchre. He calls him Bobby. I said, you might be the only one that can call him Bobby.
Right.
Little Mac. He goes, well, tell him I said hi. So there you go. You've got a hello from Little Mac.
Yep.
D. Gordon, who has been on twice, 2 hits. He drove in a run his last time up. Shows bunt right in front of the plate. Lucroy will make the play. 2 outs in the inning.
Well, there's no time to waste when D. Gordon's getting down the line. That baseball is bunted about, what, 5 feet in front of home plate, and Gordon made it close. You got to be quick. No messing around getting that ball to first base.
Yeah, you got about 3.5 seconds, right? From home to first.
And that's from the time where he starts running. He's actually starting to run before he bunts the baseball.
Wow, Rock, the Mets have tied it up. They were down 7-1. And they have now tied the score 7-7 against the Nationals.
It's the 7th inning. Wow.
All with 2 outs. All 6 runs in the 7th inning with 2 outs. Well, that's going to be one to watch. Change up, and Yelich out in front. Good pitch by Loesch. Counsell is raving about Loesch. He's talking about his professionalism and the kind of teammate he's been. He's in the final year of his deal. He'll likely be moving on next year. He's hoping for a job. He hopes to continue to pitch. I'm sure he'll get plenty of looks.
He handled it with class, as you would expect. Kyle Loesch, the demotion out of the starting rotation. That's what veterans should do.
Oh, he's a great teacher of the game, great teacher of pitching. He's passing along a lot of knowledge that he got from guys like Chris Carpenter. And Loesch will make the play on Yelich, and another 1-2-3 inning. To the 7th we go. 6-2 Miami. Fan, you haven't missed much. Don't worry about it. Marlins scoring early and often. Got an RBI from Prado in the first inning. Domingo Santana's a bright spot tonight. 2-run homer and 2 walks. Home run by JT Realmuto over the wall. That was an RBI single by Bohr. And then check this out. Off the top of the wall in center, and again Realmuto goes all the way around, this time an inside the park home run. And the Marlins get 3 runs in the 4th inning. Another run coming in on a D. Gordon RBI. That was a bases loaded walk to Justin Bohr. Driven in a pair tonight, and that's where we stand. 6-2, 7th inning. Marlins have the lead. Very impressive relief pitching from Bearclaw.
Yeah, something else, huh?
Who is a future closer here in Miami. Got him in a trade with the Cardinals for Cishek, and he came on, did a job, struck out the side last inning, and now Brian Morris will take over for the Fish as we get to the 7th.
Yeah, he's been pretty good too. You can see his numbers: a .287 earned run average. 55th appearance for Brian Morris. Last pitched on the 4th against the Mets. A scoreless inning.
Ryan Braun will lead off. Had one of the more impressive at-bats of the night in his last at-bat. 12 pitches And he ended up with a single to right field, or rather to center field. He was really battling up there.
Hit it hard into center field after fouling off a number of pitches that looked like they were pretty good to hit. Finally got a slider.
That was Braun's second hit of the game. He's 2 for 3. He's got his average up to 288, making a serious run at 300.
That'd be something, wouldn't it?
288, 25 homers, 81 driven in. Another terrific year for Ryan Braun. And a generally healthy year for Braun. Had that procedure on the thumb to deaden the nerve on his right hand, and had to go back for a tune-up on that thumb in June. And it's all worked well for him.
Goes to show you when he's healthy, he's still going to be productive. Now, Brian Moore's throwing pretty good. He threw one at 97 already, basically fastball cutter. Winning scenario, part of the bullpen, not too bad for the Fish.
Braun on the ground, that's through the hole, and a base hit, his third hit of the night. Ryan Braun, 3 out of 4. Leadoff single here in the 7th.
Yep, started out with a strikeout today in the first inning, but 3 consecutive hits. Yeah, Brewers have now out-hit the Florida Marlins, or the Miami Marlins. 9-7. They're down by 4.
Braun has 3 of those. Davis has 1. He's walked once as well. Last night, Davis hit home run number 18. He and Lind with 18 home runs this year. Braun leads the pack with 25 on the Powerball home run leaderboard. Opposite field home run for Davis last night. Davis's father was a longtime baseball man, still is in the game as a scout. Chris grew up in a baseball dugout, professional ranks, watching his dad play. Little half swing roll to first. Bohr thought about second and will end up going to first base. I think he had a play at second base if he wanted it.
I wonder why he didn't throw to second base, because he probably would have had a double play. And Davis tried to check his swing. He ended up making contact. Look how late it is that he gets down the line at first. If Bohr goes to second, that's a double play ball. Brewers fortunate.
Well, when you've driven in a couple of runs, they give you a little slack over there. As Clint Hurdle would say, as long as you're driving in more than you're letting in, you still get to play. As is the case with Pedro Alvarez. Here's Rogers, and a first pitch breaking ball misses. Rogers is from the Atlanta area. Hoping to stick in the big leagues. Works backwards for young players for the most part. When you're in an organization, the more struggles the big league team has, and when they make moves, when they make trades, it's usually the minor league system that is rewarded for that. You get a lot of call-ups, a lot of players get opportunities in the major leagues.
Yeah, trickle-down effect, though, right? I mean, Double-A goes to Triple-A, A-ball goes to Double-A when everybody moves up.
The Brewers minor league season is over. The regular season ended yesterday. The Double-A team, the Biloxi team, is one of the best Double-A teams in baseball. And Craig Counsell knows he's got a lot of prospects there, and there's going to be a few guys that we'll see in the big leagues, I think. Once that season is over, they start the postseason now. So that would be, if they go all the way to the Southern League Championship, that would give them about 2 weeks remaining in the Major League season. They play 2 best-of-5 series for the Southern League title. Into right center field, down for a hit. And around third, headed home is Braun. He'll score as Jason Rogers with an RBI single. Cuts it to a 3-run game. Rogers aboard with his second hit.
That's a nice bat right there. You know, Brian Morris able with that big fastball, left one out over the plate, and Rogers able to go right with it, right down the middle. And Rogers hits it hard into right field. Brewers not going away quietly here tonight. Down by 3 now.
And you got the tying run moving on deck. Here's Santana. As anxious as everybody is to see some of these talented young prospects the Brewers have arrive to the big leagues, the Brewers are like most organizations. They would rather have a group go through a postseason in the minor leagues as opposed to bringing them up to the big leagues, breaking up that team, bringing them to the major leagues. Even though you can evaluate them here and you get these prospects, you get their feet wet, but there is something to be said about developing a winning culture, and to keep that team together in Biloxi to go through a postseason together is very important to the Brewers organization, as it is with most.
Yeah, to say nothing about the goodwill to your minor league affiliate. I mean, fans of Biloxi, the people that work with the Biloxi Ball Club, I mean, you can imagine if they started to take those guys away, and then they wouldn't be able to do much in the postseason. You got to keep those guys together and win a championship. You owe it to the players and you owe it to the organization.
Yeah.
Biloxi.
Yeah, the teams in the minor leagues, they are the ones who hold the leverage, especially in a great place like Biloxi. If you've got a nice ballpark, you draw well, it's a good place for the players. They have this contract called the PDC, the Player Development Contract, and you can negotiate with major league teams every 2 or 4 years. And so that's the leverage that the minor league teams have, and the Brewers certainly want to keep Biloxi happy. They've done a good job for them this year. I remember being on the other side as a minor league broadcaster, and all those years with the Los Angeles Dodgers where I was in San Antonio. The Dodgers never hesitated bringing up players. Now, they had great players come through there, but they never hesitated bringing a player up from Double-A. And it felt like they were always raiding your Double-A team.
Right. Got to keep them together, especially when they're winning.
A strike called to Santana. He knew it. On a 3-2 pitch, he let one go by, and that's a second out. First strikeout for Morris.
He dropped a cut fastball on him that time, and looked like Santana looking for the fastball.
2 outs now. Here is Sardinas. Sardinas just back in the big leagues. Brewers got him in a trade this offseason. He was part of the Giovanni Gallardo deal. Came over with Corey Knebel and a young minor league pitcher. Sardinas got some big league time last year with the Rangers. Played a lot of third base and second base, mostly third when Beltre was injured. And he's proven to be versatile. He's a switch hitter, good player. Slick defender.
Yeah, saw him play some second base. He looked good over there, a natural shortstop. And Brewers now have 2 switch hitters on their roster, he and Elian Herrera. Can't have enough switch hitters on your roster.
Sardinas has a great chance to be in the big leagues next year. Whether he starts or is a utility man, Brewers are very high on him. He's a skinny kid too. He doesn't look like much, but he's got a little pop. He's got some doubles and triples numbers.
Hasn't filled out yet. He'll get there.
It's only 22. He brings a lot defensively, though, and he's a guy that has not been afraid of the big league stage. He's done well. They sent him back to the minor leagues to make sure he got enough at bats. Wanted him to get some playing time. He hit .282 in AAA once he went back. Second stint with the Brewers. And Sardinas draws the walk, and so it gets interesting now. With 2 outs, Sardinas walks, and the tying run will bat. And Elian Herrera will get another shot. He struck out with the bases loaded in the 5th. Got a chance to do some damage here in the 7th inning.
Well, the Brewers have already left 9 runners on base, and it'd be nice to cash in on a couple of these guys. They've left the bases loaded 3 different times, and they've got first and second now with 2 outs here in the 7th. Now, that's the thing the Brewers are doing such a good job of in this nice run of wins. Was it 7 of 8, right? Coming up big with 2 outs, coming up with a big hit with a man in scoring position. It hasn't been a home run barrage, but just good quality at bats in these spots.
So 2 men are out. Rogers at second. Sardinas, who runs well, he's at first. And the tying run is up. Brewers have a run in. Rogers drove one in. Elian Herrera back to his better side, the left side. Well, that motion tells you he's thinking the other way, trying to talk himself into the proper swing in a spot like this.
Keeping that front shoulder closed, not pulling off. Guys talk to themselves a lot up there in the batter's box.
Two 2-0. Were you ever able to garner anything as a catcher watching a hitter or listening to what they were saying?
Well, if a guy's getting out of the box and trying to concentrate on keeping his front shoulder closed, that means you want to try and attack him on the outside corner. Don't give him anything inside because he's pulling off.
Two balls, no strikes. Big spot for Herrera. Yeah, he's thinking the other way, isn't he? Fouls it off.
A lot of breaking pitches from Morris. I mean, he's throwing 96, 97. And ever since the base hit by Braun, he really hadn't thrown too many. Cutters, sinkers, he's throwing sliders.
Herrera's got a little pop. 7 homers this year. He had 2 on Saturday in the doubleheader. And a swing and a miss. Down and in. Another slider from Morris. 2-2 now. Two gone, 2 on. Morris deals to Herrera, back up the middle. That is going to sneak through. A base hit. In to score is Rogers. All the way to third goes Sardinas. And a 2-out, 2-strike RBI from Herrera. The Brewers are right back in it. 6-4 Miami.
The second base hit for the Brewers with a man in scoring position. Rogers got one. And now Herrera, another breaking pitch from Brian Morris. Completely going away from the fastball. Left this one up. Up out over the plate, and Herrera sneaks it into center field, and the Brewers are right back in it. And that's going to do it for Brian Marsh. Brewers getting to him tonight.
Well, now the tying run is aboard. The go-ahead run will come to the plate. And Scooter Gennett was announced as the pinch hitter. And Jennings will make a pitching change. Got some action here. The Brewers have 2 in. They're down by 2. Live and keep the Brewers in this game. It's now 6-4 Marlins. And it is a struggle on the mound. Next up for the Fish, left-hander Mike Dunn.
He's had a rough season. An earned run average at 469. You can see the strikeouts to innings pitched. 57 punch-outs. 48 innings. Appearance number 63. He appeared in 2 games against the Mets. And last time out, he pitched in yesterday's game, 2/3 scoreless. Check that. 2/3. It was an inning and 2/3 against the Mets on the 6th. Scoreless, but gave up 2 runs the appearance before that. Easy for me to say. He's given up 6 home runs. A lot of home runs out of the bullpen.
Now Gennett was announced as a pinch hitter, and then Jennings went to the mound and made a pitching change. And so now Martin Maldonado will come off the bench for Craig Counsell. So you burn Gennett. He's a decoy. Here's Maldonado. And the Brewers are a swing away from taking the lead in this game. And Maldonado takes a strike.
And you can do this now that you have a 3rd catcher. You got Ashley up from the minor leagues. So you're protected there in case something happens to Lucroy. Brewers bench is getting a bit thin. Yeah, Logan Schaefer and Ashley left.
Sardinas over at 3rd. Herrera at 1st. 2 outs in the inning. And Maldonado fouls one back just under us. And a big swing at it.
Right down the middle. Just missed it. And Dunn gets it up there at about 96. Cut fastball and a curveball.
One and 2 the count. Down and in. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Maldonado might have 2 of the most dramatic moments of the season at the plate this season. Had a walk-off on Mother's Day and then had a walk-off home run in a 17-inning game against Arizona earlier this season. And he caught the entire game. First catcher in the history of the major leagues to catch 17 innings and hit a walk-off.
That's a good reward for catching all those innings.
He really did want to end it. 2-2 pitch. Maldonado pops it up. Long run, foul territory. Bohr is out of room. That one's in the seats. And the at-bat continues. Mike Dunn, former Brave. He came over here in the Dan Uggla deal, and he's been a Marlin ever since. Two on, two out. Another 2-2 count, and that one just missed.
Yeah, hasn't been a strike all night. Tough pitch to take. I think Dunn wanted it. But David Rackley, the home plate umpire, hasn't called it.
Tell you what.
I mean, that's a strike.
Maldonado is very fortunate.
Man,
if you're an umpire, you got to be hunting strikes. I mean, the pace of the game is what it is, but it only adds to it when pitchers don't feel like they can get strikes.
So if you're Maldonado, take advantage of the break that you just got.
Full count. Herrera will take off, and Maldonado had a good swing at it. He fouls it back. Take you back. 17th inning. One of the great moments of the season. One of the few highlights of a disappointing season. Maldonado, he slides in the home plate. That was it. He's had a couple of walk-offs this year. He's trying to give the Brewers a lead, or at least driving a run. 3-2, 2 outs. Here it comes. And that one is in there, called strike three. Wasn't going to get that call again. So Dunn strikes out Maldonado. The inning ends, but the Brewers score twice. And it's 6-4 Marlins now.
Miami, and the Brewers return home next Tuesday to begin a 3-game series against the St. Louis Cardinals. And with Brewers dynamic deals, you can find a great deal on tickets, including Loge outfield seats for just $34 and terrace reserve seats for just $18. For tickets, go to brewers.com/deals. St. Louis Cardinals coming to Miller Park.
Yeah, they're struggling against the Cubs again tonight. That's 6-0 Cubs over the Cardinals. Cubs trying to win back-to-back games. Corey Knebel is in the game, his 40th big league appearance this season, and a brief stay down in the minor leagues.
Good job by Kyle Osh keeping the Marlins off the board as Knebel takes over for the 40th time this year. Corey last pitched on Saturday, game 2 in Cincinnati, tossed a perfect inning.
got Martin Prado to lead off. Prado, Bohr, and Ozuna coming up. The Brewers are within 2 now. They've out-hit the Marlins 11-7. Brewers have stranded 11 already through the first 7 innings. Well, Knebel trying to keep the Marlins at 6, give the Brewers a fighting chance. They've got the top of the order coming up next inning. Here's a 1-1. Prado in the right field, hit pretty well, but Braun is there. And there is out number 1 for Corey Knebel. Taylor Youngman wasn't alone wearing the the Notre Dame onesie. Knebel had to join him after his Longhorns lost to the Fighting Irish. I asked Corey about it. I said, I mean, Texas was a significant underdog in that game.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I don't think anybody really thought the Longhorns were going to go in there and beat the Irish.
Rookies don't have much of a choice, though.
And so I asked him, he goes, I said, did you really think Texas could win that game? He goes, no, not at all. But when the manager comes and wants to make a friendly wager, I figured it'd be a good chance to get in with him. He was laughing. I said, would you have made Counsell wear a Texas Longhorn onesie? He goes, probably not. They bought one, though.
Oh, he would have worn it, too. Craig.
He wouldn't. I think they would have taken him off the hook.
No. He would have worn it. He's that kind of guy.
Counsell knew there was 0 chance the Longhorns were going to win that game. That was a safe bet. Bohr takes a called strike 3. Knebel, that big fastball rings him up. 2 outs in the inning.
Yep, 95 miles an hour in the fastball for Corey Knebel. Gets him. David Rackley rings that one up. He likes the high strike, doesn't like the low strike so much.
Here is Ozuna with 2 away. And a swing and a foul right off Lucroy.
That got him. That was a direct hit. When you see a foul ball go off the mask and just drop right in front of the catcher and not carry him off to the side, it's right between the eyes.
And the home plate umpire giving Lucroy a little time here to gather his senses and shake that off. That's how umpires protect catchers. They'll go around, they'll sweep off the plate, take their time.
Ask for some baseballs. Catchers do the same for the umpires.
He really doesn't need any more baseballs, but he'll ask for him here to give Lucroy a minute. He's good to go. Here's the 0-1. Curveball misses.
See how small of a little ball, Lucroy, is able to get himself into, which is amazing. Why he gets hit by so many foul tips. He's a very small target back there. Look at him.
There's a shot down the line, just inside the line. That's going to go into the corner, and that'll be a double for Ozuna. Just kept it fair. Marcell Ozuna with his first hit of the night.
Fastball down and in, just dropped the head of the bat on it. And down and in, and hitter is able to get to that pitch relatively easily, right inside the third baseline. First base runner for the Marlins since the 4th inning.
Yeah, the Brewers bullpen had been able to retire 9 consecutive before that double. Starting with Jimenez, then Loesch to Knebel. Well, the hitter of the night for the Marlins thus far, JT Realmuto. Outside the park homer in the second and inside the park homer in the fourth. Last catcher to have it inside the Parker was Damian Miller when he played for the Diamondbacks. Fly ball to right, Braun out of room, and he just does have enough to make the catch. And the inning is over, and a good inning for Knebel. Scoreless 7. To the 8th we go. The Brewers down 2. See if they have a comeback in them tonight. Marlins lead the Brewers as we go to the 8th inning. Our Miller Lite What's on Tap. We're back at it tomorrow night. Ariel Pena will make his first career major league start. He got a win, his first big league win in his debut against the Cincinnati Reds, and now he'll get the start tomorrow against Tom Kohler. Don't let the record fool you on Kohler. He's a pretty good pitcher. He's a guy that can give an offense fits. So that'll be the matchup tomorrow, 5:30 airtime on Fox Sports Wisconsin. Hope you'll join us. Running out of baseball games. We're inside a month now to the conclusion of the season. Soak it up while you can.
Yep, today is game number 138 for the Brew Crew.
Dunn continues on here. Segura leads off for Milwaukee, and he lines one to right, a base hit, and right away the Brewers will bring the tying run to the plate. Brewers keep coming at him. That's hit number 12 after 15 hits last night, stranding 11 last night, 12 here tonight, and they've also left 11 men on base.
Yeah, really nice job for Segura pulling the hands in and that inside out stroke in the right field. There was not anybody getting loose in that Marlins bullpen until now. Now that the base hit by Segura happened, and now the Marlins pen getting busy again. Ellington getting loose. We saw him last night.
A hard thrower. 3-hit night for Segura. 2 infield hits and now a single to right after a couple of hits last night. Here's Lucroy. Lucroy is 0 for 4. Big spot for him here in the 7th. Key at bat for him came in the 4th inning. He was up there with the bases loaded, and he hit one a ton to center field. Would have been out of most ballparks, and probably would have been out of Marlins Park next year when they bring the fences in. But it was run down by Ozuna about 400 feet away.
He hit it a year too soon.
1 year too soon, Luke.
Just missed.
Tying run at the plate. Braun due up next. And Lucroy, a swing and a miss. 1-2 the count. You see Lucroy swing like that and he misses. He's almost shocked that he did not drive that ball to right field. He did everything right, but he missed.
Well, he swung one off the corner, though. If it's a strike, you might drive it into the gap somewhere.
And Dunn's got a little bit of sinking action on his fastball.
A little tail off the outside corner.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Coming inside. And Lucroy chased one. Down he goes. So Dunn with a big fastball at 94. The first out of the inning. Marlins pitchers have been able to rack up a bunch of strikeouts tonight. 7 by the starter Conley. Bearclaw had 4 in his inning and 2/3. He got 5 outs. 4 of them were Ks. 14 punch outs for Marlins pitchers tonight. Braun breaks his bat. How about a game break here? Kurt Neuenhuis off closer Jonathan Papelbon. In a 7-7 game, Neuenhuis puts the Mets on top. They're in the bottom of the 9th. Nationals are coming up down a run. Papelbon put into the game in the 8th inning in a tie game. He pitched 2 innings in that one. And now they're headed to the 9th. Bryce Harper's due up. An impressive comeback by the Mets. They were down 7-1. And a 6-run inning for the Mets. They had a 6-run 7th inning. All of those runs came with 2 outs.
Yeah, 2 outs in the 7th inning, down by that much, and just taking the lead. Wow, desperation time in Washington.
Even, you know, they would go down 6 games if they lose. It's not insurmountable, but you think psychologically to give up a game like that, if they do not come back and win, boy, look out.
Yeah, talk about it. Bringing the closer in the 8th inning
in a tie game.
Right. You don't see that.
I figure the reason he did that because the heart of the order was coming up for the Mets. But Kurt Neuenhuis delivers the big one. And while the Nationals have all of these relievers who cannot get through the game, they have to watch their former closer Tyler Clippard do a job. As Braun into right, caught by Ichiro. Segura back.
Another hard hit ball by Ryan Braun. Hit the ball hard now 4 straight times. That one to right, just right at Ichiro. They can only hit him. You can't guide him most of the time.
Braun 3 for 5 tonight. That was one of the hardest hit balls he's had. So 2 outs. Segura still at first base, and here is Chris Davis. Brewers are looking for one big swing of the bat tonight. They're down 2. They fought their way back. They had a couple last inning to make it a 2-run game. Brewers actually had a lead early in this one, 2-1 after the 2nd inning. Marlins scoring in each of the first 4 innings, including a 3-run 4th. They lead 6-4. Missing inside again. 2 balls and a strike. Well, you figure it is go time right now for Chris Davis.
Right. Well, the Brewers got the leadoff single by Segura, had the guys coming up that they needed, and Dunn able to get a couple of outs.
2-1. There goes Segura. Davis takes the throw to second is late. And a stolen base for Segura. Well, you better know you can make it. Down 2 runs. Segura in there with a stolen base.
Yeah, with a power hitter up, you get thrown out. Just keep running. Keep running into the Cleveland or get lost out there. And the throw on one bounce. Segura able to hold the bag, but the ball rolls into center field.
That is a risky stolen base. But he's there, and a base hit will pull the Brewers within a run now. 3 balls and a strike on Davis. Hitters count. Davis looking for a mistake. And a ball up and away. And here we go. Davis reaches. Tying run is on. And the go-ahead run is coming to the plate. Jason Rogers will bat. After Dunn walks Davis. And we'll see if the Marlins are going to make a move here. They're stirring in that Marlins dugout.
Chuck Hernandez tells his manager that he's ready. Ramos. Marlins want this one pretty badly. They're going to bring in a closer.
Yeah, it's going to be a double switch. So Jennings will make yet another move. Having a tough time getting a clean inning out of his relievers tonight, and the Brewers are in a good position here with 2 outs. Another pitching change. We'll set him up when we come back. Jason Rogers is coming up. Gillespie will enter the game in center field. He made a great catch yesterday in center. And that's part of the double switch that will get A.J. Ramos into the game.
Yeah, early entry for the closer. So, they're looking for an inning and a third out of Ramos. 62nd appearance. He's blown 6 saves. He's got 23 out of 29. Giving up 6 home runs and has posted a 272 earned run average. Picked up a win on September 6th against the Mets through a scoreless inning.
The Brewers have out-hit the Marlins 12-8. And they need one more big one in a spot like this. 2 on, 2 out. Rogers up there after an RBI single his last time up. That drove in the 3rd run of the game. A.J. Ramos. And a strike. Brewers have good speed out at second base in Segura, a plus runner. Davis average speed at first. And in these vast outfield spaces here in Miami, anything down a line or in a gap, Davis has a chance to score the tying run.
And that's why the Marlins outfield is pretty deep.
And a wave and a miss at a breaking ball.
Got good breaking stuff, does A.J. Ramos. Mid-90s, low to mid-90s on the fastball. Slider, curveball.
And he got him. Ramos comes back to the breaking ball. Strikes out Rogers. The Brewers strand 2 more. Inning over. Still down a pair. All right, Marnie, thanks. With producer Brad Weimer, director Adam Bryant III. And Brian Michalogic in the truck doing whatever he does. 6-4 our score. We're on our way to the bottom of the 8th inning. And the Brewers are going to call on Jeremy Jeffress now to try to put a 0 on the board, get the Brewers to the 9th, only down a pair.
Well, the Brewers are going to be kicking themselves if Nadeau's come back tonight. 13 stranded on base. Left the bases loaded 3 times in this game, and they're only down by 2 though. Jeremy Jeffress takes over for the 62nd time. Good numbers for Jeremy. And Jeremy Jeffress last pitched on Saturday, game 1 of the doubleheader, and picked up a win.
Facing Ichiro to start it. The Mets hang on to win. They beat the Nationals 8-7. What a comeback. Down 7-1 with Jordan Zimmerman on the mound for Washington. And the Mets come all the way back and win. Beat Jonathan Papelbon. Ichiro a shot. That's on a hop to Segura. And he'll make the play to first. Ichiro hit it right on the nose. Nothing to show for it. 1 away.
Yeah, you got Zimmerman out there with a big lead. You think you're going to cruise to a victory tonight. You're thinking about game 3. Figuring out a way to win the series, and now they have to avoid the sweep. It's going to be Strasburg on the mound against Jacob deGrom tomorrow.
Kirk Neuenhuis hit the decisive home run off Papelbon in the 8th inning. That is a 6-game lead for the Mets. Their lead was down to 4 when that series began. A pinch hit homer by Nieuwenhuis, by the way.
Marlins took 2 out of 3 from him.
Jeffress facing Solano. And a shot right off Jeffress, right to Segura. And the throw to first, not in time. Solano beat it out. That hit Jeffress pretty squarely as it ricocheted over to the shortstop position. Segura almost got an out of that.
Yeah, check out, it's got him right in the rear end, did it, slowed it down, got it to Segura, just couldn't find the handle right away, and that's why Solano was able to beat it out.
It'll be an infield hit for Solano. Jeffress all right. Hit him in the best spot.
Yeah, Craig Counsell wants the umpiring crew to take a look at it.
Thinking he might have an out at first base. Interesting.
You know, why not, right? Use it now.
All right, so the crew chief, Hunter Wendelstedt, will come on in. They'll put the headsets on, and we'll turn this over to a review in New York. Let's see here. Ooh, I tell you. Wow.
Yeah, is the heel down, or?
I don't think so. This might go the Brewers' way here.
Yeah, I'd say it looked like regular speed that he had it beat, but the Brewers replay crew down in the clubhouse.
Calling umpire there is Bob Davidson on the left.
Well, that's pretty close, isn't it? I think this might go to the way of the Brewers, but we've been surprised before.
Take another look. It's got to hit leather in the glove.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's it's splitting hairs when you're doing that. But when does the ball actually hit the glove first? Is it there or is it there? And that's what they have to determine, you know, in New York. So this is going to be a tough one.
It looks to me that the foot had not touched the base, but I mean, we are talking frame by frame. If they got him, it's going to be by a frame. And they have not been overturning close calls, the extremely close call that we've never really been able to see until these cameras and these new replay speeds were able to capture these images. That's only happened in the last few years. This will be some kind of play. If the Brewers get an out here, this is going to be one of the great plays of the night for Segura.
Is there clear and convincing evidence that they got the call wrong on the field? That's the question.
And a long challenge process here. Brewers challenge this. Call on the field was safe. Here we come. Here comes the result from New York.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
It's usually a telltale sign. Here we go. Hunter Wendelstedt says safe. So they don't overturn it. Not enough evidence there.
Not surprising. Too close. But worth the risk. I mean, worth the challenge. Why not? You can't take it home with you.
So a base runner with one away. And the batter is Cole Gillespie, came in on the double switch last inning. The language on that coming back from New York was the call stands, which tells you there is not enough evidence to overturn. And now that gets away from Luke Croy, and Solano is on his way to second base. That is a huge run at second base to leave stranded for Jeffress.
And tough enough when you have to get 2 runs off of Ramos, but let alone 3. And Jeffress just spikes one with Gillespie trying to bunt him over. He might still be bunting. Who knows?
Shows bunt and runs into the baseball.
Or
And
not.
out at first, or did he?
No.
Looked like it, but I guess not. So that'll be a sacrifice bunt. Yeah, take a look at that. Had a strange bounce when it hit the ground. Yeah, he did. He hit him in the shin.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I mean, this is reviewable as well.
It's not going to be an out. He was still in the box. And Dan Jennings wants to have the umpires come together here.
I think it's clear that that ball hits him.
You just there was a double noise first of all, and then the way the ball changed directions and rolled out in front of the plate.
They bunted it right on the ground, and all of a sudden, after it hit the batter, it just rolled like a regular bunt. We'll see. Umpire's getting a workout.
All right, somebody should make a call here. Nobody's made one yet. And they're gonna let it sit, so it's gonna remain as an out. All right, so be it. The second out of the inning, the Brewers will take it. Should have been a foul ball. Runner at third, 2 away. D. Gordon at the plate. He slaps one foul.
A little surprising that Gillespie was up there to bunt with already 1 out and a man at second base. Why not try and drive him in? Hard to figure.
Gordon's had a good night tonight. 2 hits, drove in a run in the 4th inning. That was a 2-out RBI double. And a single and a run scored in the 1st inning. No balls, 2 strikes to count. One and 2 the count on Gordon. And a bouncer, second base. Sardinius knows he's got to hurry, takes care of it, no problem. Inning over, and the Marlins strand a runner at third. Last call for the Brewers. We're going to the 9th. Brew Crew down 2. Well, the Marlins have the lead. They're asking 4 outs out of their closer tonight, A.J. Ramos. Brewers down a pair, 6-4, 9th inning, and Domingo Santana will lead off. A strike to Santana. 2-run home run for Domingo back in the 2nd inning, his 5th as a Brewer, his 7th in the big leagues this year. 0-2 the count.
Yeah, Ramos has a good arsenal of off-speed pitches, the slider, the curveball, the changeup. Able to end the inning. Got Jason Rogers on a curveball.
The 1-2 pitch on the ground. That's going to sneak through, a base hit for Santana. Boy, he has had a night at the plate. 2 hits, 2 walks, hit a 2-run homer in the 2nd inning, and again the Brewers will bring the tying run to the plate. Brewers baseball tonight presented by Potawatomi Hotel and Casino. Book your stay now.
Yeah, Ramos left that curveball right down the middle of the plate. And Santana able to hit it hard into left field.
Here is Sardinhas. Luis batting for the 2nd time. He walked in the 7th inning, came into the game in the 6th. Takes a strike. A.J. Ramos, 28-year-old Texan out of Lubbock. Now in his 4th year as a Marlin, his 1st year as a closer. He's got 23 saves this season. Dan Jennings just couldn't get a reliever to get through innings after Bearclaw's appearance. So he's asking Ramos to give him the final 4 outs. It's been a while since Ramos pitched across 2 innings. You got to go all the way back to July 31st. Last time he worked more than 3 outs. With an inning and a 3rd in that game against San Diego, Rock, and gave up 4 earned runs in an inning and a 3rd.
Yeah, well, that's what the Brewers are hoping for tonight.
Sardinhas slaps it foul.
When you're used to getting loose, coming in, and not having to go back out there after you're sitting in the dugout, throughout the season, and all of a sudden you're asked to do that, that's a different situation altogether. Brewers need to take advantage of that.
Sardinhas representing the tying run here with Herrera on deck. And that one's outside. Ball 3. Early in the season, Ramos was being used for multiple innings of relief, but not as the closer. Did it 4 times in the month of April. Had an inning and a 3rd back on May 30th. Got a save in that game. That was when he entered into the closer's role. And other than that outing on July 31st, that's the only other occasion he has gone more than 3 outs for a save. And that's hit hard right at second. Gordon flips it. Solano turns it. And just like that, 2 quick outs, wipes out a leadoff single.
A tough break for Sardinhas. He hit that ball right on the nose. Right at D. Gordon, and the double play was just routine at that point. Boy, you can see the reaction from Ramos saying, I'm lucky that ball was hit hard right on one hop to D. Gordon, but he got 2 outs.
And now the Brewers going to have to dial it up with 2 away. Down 2 runs. Elian Herrera had a single and an RBI in the 7th inning to drive in a run. Ramos is not your prototypical closer. He doesn't have the overpowering fastball. He does it with off speed. He's got a good breaking pitch, a little slider he throws in there.
Yeah, change-ups.
Employs the Frankie Rodriguez style of pitching. That's the change-up there. Marlins trading Cishek to the Cardinals. Open the door for the closer's role. And the count 1-2. Don't forget Brewers Live coming up. Marnie Gellner on duty tonight. Davey Nelson will be with her from our Fox Sports Wisconsin studios. Last game of the series tomorrow, and then the Brewers head to Pittsburgh to start a 4-gamer on Thursday. That's it. A strikeout to end it. Ramos goes an inning and a third to notch the save. His 24th of the season. And the Brewers drop the second game of this series despite 3 hit games from Braun and Segura. So the rubber game tomorrow. Final game of the season series between the Brewers and the Marlins. We'll be back at it tomorrow night. 5:30 airtime for Brewers Live. We got Brewers Live coming your way. Marnie Gellner standing by. Let's send it to her now in our Fox Sports Wisconsin studios. Marnie?